Hello everyone, this is your favorite Murtid live once again. Salamul Masih, peace of Christ be with each and every one of you. I hope you guys are having a lot of fun, a nice time, a nice day wherever you are, depending on which part of the world you are. Some people are sleeping obviously right now, depending on if they are in the other side of the world. But thank you so very much for being here. Today is part 5 of our show, the religion of Muhammad, the origin of the religion of Muhammad. And as always, let me welcome our brother Lloyd Dijon to show us this session. Brother Lloyd, welcome.
Thanks, Adam. Thank you. Glad to be back. Hello, everyone.
And brother, thank you for being here and being part of this channel. And we have quite a few people already in live. Let me remind everyone, guys, if you have not shared the video link, now is the time to share, because as you already know, most of our channels and videos are shadow banned. So it's better for you guys to share it so that the more people will come in. So let me just welcome the few people who are already here. Casey, Reason Answered, the Christian, and Marion, who is a very good sister of ours, always here. Hillside, always here. Most of the regulars are already here. Kim is here. RJ, Hillside, Reason Answers. So welcome everyone. Brian, Anthony, welcome, welcome, welcome everyone. Perfect. Thank you so very much for being here and love you all. Brother, the stage is yours. The mic is yours.
Okay, fantastic. So let me just go to the presentation. I will start sharing, and we'll just dive right in and try and get this done today. All right. So I think I'm sharing my second screen. Okay, there
Yes,
we go.
sir. The screen is.
Okay, hey everyone. So just to very briefly introduce this thesis, we're going to be looking at archaeology, history, language, as well as Islamic sources, and we're going to be tracing the origins of Islam when Islam was, when Arabia was actually part of a large religion, pagan religion. So, in other words, the Babylonian religion was actually spread all across Arabia, from Mesopotamia, Turkey, all the way down to Yemen, right through Arabia. And so Islam has a lot of its roots, and we covered early in the first episode, there's a group of what's called Sabaeans and Yemeni pagans, pagan moon worshippers, who worshipped this Babylonian moon god called Sin, which they called Al-Makkah, which is the same name as the city of Makkah in Arabia. So, and their religious practices are very, very similar to modern day Islam. So that's what I'm going to do as an introduction. And so let me go here, and then I'm going to jump into the slide. Into our first slide, I'll pick up where we left off last time, and we'll continue. Okay, so, all right. So, guys, this is Arabia. Now, notice this area down here, these Yemenis, they invaded Arabia, and they controlled not only this region in Yemen, but they controlled most of Arabia. And in fact, according to some historians, they controlled the area all the way up into Palestine, so Jordan as well as Palestine. So their influence extended. So they came from here. They were worshippers of the moon god Makkah, right? So you can see they had control all over Mecca as well as up into Medina, right? And they were called the Kinda, okay? So they were the Kinda. They were pagans. They were Yemeni pagans. So this tribe was the Kinda, and they founded the Central Arabian Kingdom of Kinda, which was known as the Kindat al-Mulk. This notice letters M-L-K. The capital was down here, Qaryat al-Fao, okay, or Qaryat Datkal. So now notice it said here, according to this document, that they controlled the totality of Inner Arabia up to Lower Iraq and even Palestine. Lower Iraq would have meant that they were part of Babylon, the into Babylonia, into Mesopotamia. Hi, Sheikh Ahmad. The capital city still stands today. It is southeast of Makkah. Don't forget the moon god of Yemen was called Makkah. The gods they worshipped include Kal, and we saw that this is a derivative or corruption of the Jewish god Ka'el, pardon me, which would be Yahweh. So it's a corruption of that. They also worship Atta al-Sharik and a god called La. Right. So the question would be, since their main god La is Allah an expansion of La, or is it the contraction of Al Illah? That's a potential question. But their main god was called La. Allah means the La. Right. So Sharik means rising from the east. It's an indirect reference to the sun god, and it means companion or partner. So there you go. Okay, because the sun was the wife or the consort of the moon god. Now in the south, now this is important. There are inscriptions from the 4th to the 5th century refer to a god called Rahman, the Merciful One. He had a monotheistic cult, and he was referred to as the Lord of Heaven and Earth. Two groups of people had a god called Rahman. You would know them as the Christians and the Jews. In the 5th century, the 4th century, the Christians and the Jews called their god Rahman, the Merciful One. There was also a man called Musaylama, who was a false prophet, just like Muhammad, who also had a monotheistic cult, and he worshipped a god very similar to the Christian and Jewish god, who was also called Rahman. Now, the Quran has no name for Allah until about chapter 49, about roughly halfway through, or 59, roughly halfway through the Quran. Suddenly, Muhammad realizes, oh, wait, I need to give my God a name because my God has no name. Because up to then, Allah is just called the Lord, the Lord, the Lord. And then he suddenly says, well, you know what? I'm going to call my God Rahman. Very coincidental. So now, what happens is this is very likely due to the increasing significance of the Christian and Jewish communities in this region. That's where the term Rahman, taking the name of the God Rahman, comes from. Now, let's have a quick look at some of this information. So, Islam looks to have been derived from the upper classes, your elite classes, and they went over to some form of monotheistic creed, a cult of the merciful, Rahman, in this case, Rahmanan, the Lord of Heaven, which could best be described as Hanafite, or see Hanif. Don't forget the Jews and the Christians, the term Hanif comes from the Aramaic or the Syriac, Hanpe, which means pagan or heretic. In this context, it means heretic. So in other words, this cult of Rahman, this monotheistic cult of Rahman, was described by the Christians and the Jews as a heresy, as a Christian heresy, and by the Jews, obviously, as a Jewish heresy. So, Adam, do you have anything to say about that? This being a heresy.
No, brother, that is good, Hanpei. Yeah. Hanifa,
Okay,
as you know already, we showed in the last stream as well
we just go.
that Abraham and all that. So I I would allow you to move forward on
Yeah.
that. Perfect.
Okay. So even Allah, the worship of Allah is the Hanifan. So okay, understand this. Allah is Hanifan, right? Allah is thus, according to this, a heretic, a Christian heretic. Right. Let's have a look at another document. Quran 53:49 calls God the Lord, or Allah, the Lord of Sirius. Now, what is interesting is that Sirius is the star god. Okay, Sirius is the star god. So you have the sun god, the moon god, they have a child, and that child is Sirius, the star god. And Allah is the Lord of Sirius. Now, the Lord of Sirius, according to the Babylonian pagan and the Arabian pagan pantheon, is Sin, the moon god Sin. Within the Arabian pantheon, it's the moon god Al Makkah. Now, if Allah is the Lord of Sirius, the star god, this would mean that Allah is Sin, the Babylonian moon god Sin. Okay? Now, the new monotheistic god is called Rahman in ancient South Arabian, described as the Lord of heaven and earth. And the Quranic name Al Rahman probably is related to that. One interesting inscription, this is an archaeological inscription on the temple, it mentions Rahmanan, and it ends with the phrase Rab had bin Muhammad, which is translated as by the Lord of the Jews, by the highly praised. So here, Muhammad is a reference to Jesus. Your thoughts on this, Adam, before I go on? Anything?
Brother, yes, I have done a couple of streams on that
Hmm.
already in the past,
Okay,
where
good.
we will see that whenever the name Muhammad has been used in Quran, which is used in 4 times, if you do not translate, if you do not translate it and say Muhammad, it looks like Muhammad, the last prophet. But if you do not translate, if you actually translate the word Muhammad as the praised one, we already know who the praised one is. Those verses will fit exactly on Jesus 100%. So
Correct.
you are
Now notice
absolutely right.
here, so this early inscription which mentions Muhammad is reference to the Lord of the Jews, not the Islamic God, the Lord of the Jews. And notice here, this final inscription, there's an inscription now, Abraha. This is the guy that attacked Mecca with the elephants. Now listen to this inscription that is found about Abraha. In the name of Rahman and of his son, the conquering Christ, known as Rahman and Christos. So
Hmm.
God the Father and Christ. Abraha's inscriptions contain equally clear formulas. The most significant begins with the power, the help, and the mercy of Rahman and of his Messiah and of his Holy Spirit. So Abraha left an inscription discussing Rahman. This is the Abraha that supposedly attacked Mecca with the elephants. And Rahman here was God, and God had his son, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. So I think we can then derive the fact that Rahman would then be God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit. So I think that's fairly clear from the inscriptions here. And Muhammad, when he took on the name Rahman, he was corrupting the name of God. He was taking plagiarizing from Christianity, and because it was Hanaphite, it was a heresy. So it's a corruption of Christianity, and therefore it's a corruption of the biblical story. All right. So now we move to Malik, MLK, MLK, these letters, right? Mulk, Malik, Malik. Malik is derived from the follower of Baal, the servant of or slave of Baal. Karib Baal, slave of Baal. Karib, follower of Baal. Okay, Malik means king. It's derived from the Hebrew. Okay, so a melek is a king, and molek derives from the term malik, right? So the name derives from combining the consonants of the Hebrew melek, meaning king, with the vowels of shame. So in other words, this is a king of shame. This is a shameful king. This is a king that is held as unsavory, right? So it has a bullhead, and the root is MLK, and we get Muluk Adramalek. Don't forget, we also get Abdal Malik. Abdal Malik is not a name, it is a title. The slave of the Malik. If you are the emperor, if you are the king, then whose slave are you? Well, you're the slave of the god. You're the slave of Malik. Malik, Moloch, Molech. We'll talk more about that as we go. So it's an epithet for Baal. We know already that Muhammad was consecrated to Hubal. Okay. And also Malik, MLK, Moloch, is one of the names of Allah. Okay. Name number 84. So I'm going to just mention briefly that in Judges 8:21, we have Gideon who killed Zebah and Zalmunna, and there were crescent ornaments on their camels, right? So, and notice these people that he kills they worship Baal and the queen of heaven, Ashtaroth. So again, we're going back to these pagan gods. So now these are the enemies of Yahweh. So in Psalms 84, they say, let us wipe them out as a nation. So these are the enemies of Israel. And right now, as you know, the Muslims, Islam, unfortunately, is an enemy of the God of the Bible and an enemy of the Jews, right? They have to kill them to bring the end times. So I'll continue. Right. Now, interestingly here, so a second question concerns the nature of Allah, a god of pagan origin. In the oldest revelations of the Quran, the name Allah does not appear. He's called the Lord. It is Rahman, which is the name of the one God of the Jews and Christians. So this is a God that originates in polytheism, and the inscriptions seem to confirm it. So, for instance, we've got eagle in trust, the tomb he has built, to Allah, and Athar, the Oriental. So Allah had a consort, Allah and Allat. So what you have is originally you had this 99 names, which were basically 99 gods, right? The gods of the pantheon, and they were just rolled together into one, and they were called Allah. So all of these qualities, because, for instance, there was a slide earlier where there was a god called Wad. Wad means love. So sometimes the god didn't have a name. The god was mentioned by using a quality like love or brings rain. So those are the qualities. So now all of these qualities of Allah, those are just the names of former pagan gods.
So there are
Okay.
99 names that Allah claims himself to be in the Quran as well. So yeah, so they are all
Yeah.
called attributive names.
Yeah. And there were gods that had those names previously So yeah, those are just attributes of different gods, and basically Allah is all of these pagan, these polytheistic gods rolled into one. So let's look at some
And
pre-Arabian pre.
just
Yeah.
just to add one more point, sorry brother, in the Quran chapter number 38 verse number 5 it says, like, people are saying to Muhammad, just to add, that what have you done? You have done a very strange thing. Have you made all gods into one god? That's Quran chapter
Yes.
number 38 verse number 5. So
Yes.
the people knew what Muhammad is doing. They are saying you are just taking all these gods and making it into one god. That's it. That's all what you're doing.
Correct. The Quran accuses him of that. Exactly. That accusation is made there. Yes. So let's look at some of these pre-Islamic Arabian deities. You have Hilal, the god of the new moon. You have who's the moon god of Yemen. Okay, so there were multiple. The same moon god had different names across Yemen. You had god, and they also had the goddess Aterat as their consort. So Alat, right? Deuteroscopy 12 is Yahweh commanding the destruction of all the shrines of Aterat, right? Then you've got Kal. We saw that Karyat al Kal, right? Ka'el, okay? So that's basically a corruption of the name of Yahweh. This is the moon god of the Hadramaut, Yemen, the Kinda. You had Sin, who was the chief god of the Hadramites, connected to the Semitic god Shin. Talab is a moon god worshipped by the Sumay, a Sabaean tribal confederation. So the same gods, the same people, different name. Then you have this very interesting god, Yatha. Okay? Yatha in the Hebrew, so the sh in the Hebrew becomes ta within the Arabic. And what you've got, Yasha, right? Yasha is the god of salvation. The name means savior, right? Which is a very interesting thing because it comes from the Yasha, which we know as Yeshua, a masculine noun meaning salvation, okay? Taken from the root Yasha. Yasha, Isha, Isa, Yeshua, very, very similar derivation. So it looks like they had Jesus as a god, slightly corrupted in that region. The Abdul Khalasa, okay, who's a god of redemption, which is very interesting. And his temple became known as the Kaaba of Yemen. And of course, there are a couple of hadith which say if you touch the Yemeni corners, you will have your sins forgiven.
And Muhammad made his people destroy the Kaaba of Dhul Khulasa. That is also in Hadith al Bukhari and other hadiths as well. But brother,
Yes.
one thing is very important, is the Sin. You said Sin was the chief god of Hadramites.
All the gods of Arabia, basically, was the chief
They-
god.
He was the chief god. There is a like, look at this one. One of my friend actually made me looked into this as well when he was watching your part 4. Peace upon Ilyas. That's how they translate this verse. Quran chapter number 37, verse number 130. They translate it as peace upon Ilyas. Okay. But look at the Arabic. It says Salamun, peace, Allah, upon. It does not say Ilyas. It does not say Elias. It says Il,
الياسين.
Il, Ya, Sin. There are three words. Il stands for El. Ya stands for O. Sin stands for sin that you are showing. Cyn, Syn. Salam upon, al means the, il as in God, il,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
The main
il.
god.
It's not al, it's not alif zabar. So if it was the dash down here, instead of down here it should be on top, then it will become the. Okay, it's il, zair, with a diacritical mark underneath it. Il as in God of the Hebrew. Ya as in o, when you say O Lord, O, the God, O, seen. So you see what you are showing, it is actually in the Quran. Chapter number 37, verse number 130. It is right there. Forget the chapter name, Yasin, wal Quran al Hakim, innaka lamin al Murtazin. Forget that part. Even in Quran chapter number 37, verse number 130, it says, peace, Allah, upon, il, as in il, ya, o, sin. And look what how they read it.
الياسين.
I'm not saying that, right? I'm not even pronouncing it right
Hmm.
now. And anybody who can read
Wow.
Arabic can confirm what I'm saying. How did it become Elijah? And how did it become Ilyas? It's
It's
just
not. It's
stupid.
Sind. It's the god of Babylon.
Yeah, and Ilyas is written in Arabic like this: Alif Lam Ya Alif Sin Ilyas. It's not written like this. It's written like
Wow.
this down here. Ilyas.
So they're lying.
Ilyasin. They'll 100%. So in Arabic, they say Elijah means Ilyas. Okay. It is not Ilyas. Like, let me show you another thing. Here, if it is Ilyas, Elijah, right? So it should be the
Ilyasin.
same everywhere else, right? So if we go to Quran chapter number, I'm sorry, I'm taking some time over here, but
Huh?
it is necessary. So here you will see Ilyas over here. Hold on, let me show you Ilyas. Uh, Salman wa Ayyub wa Musa. Hold on. Mm. This is Ilyas in Arabic, Quran chapter number 6, verse number 85.
وإلياس.
Okay, this is Quran 8, chapter number 6, verse number 85. This is how Ilyas is written. Look how they pronounce it.
وإلياس.
Wow means and, Ilyas means Elijah. So if they say Elijah or Ilyas, then Ilyas should be written as like this.
وإلياس.
Alif,
Mhm.
Lam, Ya, Alif, Sin. That's how Ilyas is written. Chapter number 6, verse number 85. But here, if we see, it's not Ilyas. It's separate. It's
They
ill as
flat
in
out
separate.
lying. It's to
Ya
sin.
and Sin.
إلياسين.
So, man, this is crazy. And I thank my friend who was watching our part 4 and he gave me this person like, look what's happening here. So thank you, my friend. God bless you. And there you
Awesome.
go, brother.
Excellent. So I want to mention something. Ibn al-Jabbar, this is a very, very famous Islamic scholar, very highly revered Islamic scholar. So Ibn al-Jabbar, okay, refers to a Christian theologian known as Yawanis, okay, which is an Eastern Syriac and Nestorian form of the name John, but he repeatedly uses the name Ishu to refer to Jesus, okay. So this form is very odd for an Arabic text, but it's based on the East Syriac form of the name Jesus, Isho. And in the West Syriac, you'd have Yashu. Now, we just had Yasha, right? We just had this Yasha, right, previously. So notice, Ibn al-Jabbar teaches his readers, right? In the book, he teaches that Ishu or Yasha is Syriac for Isa, which is the Quranic form of Jesus. So that's apparently the derivation for the term Isa. It's taken from this pagan form, right? This corrupted form of Yasha, which is where Yasha becomes this pre-Islamic pagan god instead of the proper Jesus. So they've taken Jesus, made him a pagan god, and they've borrowed that. And that's how, apparently, according to him at least, where the term Isa comes from. Okay, so yeah. So let me see. So let me continue here. So I'll skip this slide, not to worry. So here's a list of some of these gods. So you have Romans, Greeks, Arabians, the sun, Sol, Helios, and Apollo, Alat, okay, Alat, Manat, and Al Uzza, Shemesh, Shapash, Shamash in Babylonian, okay. Notice the moon god, Diana, Luna, Artemis, and in Islam, Allah Ta'ala. This is a very common term used today, and it refers to Sin, the Most High God, Sin. Now we have the Most High God, Allah. Of course, Al-Makkah was also known as Allah, right? That was the Yemeni version of Sin, was known as Allah. And of course, you see here in Babylon, it's called Sin, and in Arabia, it's also Sin, right? And then you have Shen here, and also Nana, and you have Al Uzza here as the Arabian god here for Venus, Al Uzza. Okay, so understand these gods were very much the same gods across different geographies. Let's continue. So you have moon gods called Allah, Elumku. Elumku is the same as Al Makkah, Mahram, Osiris, and Sin, Wad. Wad just means love, and Yera. Yera is a derivative of the name Terah, which is the father of Abraham. Right, so moon worship centers, we had Aksum in Ethiopia. You had Beit Yera, right? This is Yera, Terah. This would have been the name of, again, Abraham's father. Haran, meaning the city of the moon. Okay, this is Turkey, where Abraham lived for a long time. His brother was named after this city, Haran. Okay, you have Marib in Mecca. Okay, and Tema. Tema is where Nabonidus, the last god of Babylon, the last king of Babylon, lived in Arabia for 10 years, and he founded the worship of Sin. So the vicious god in the Quran is consistent not with the god of the Bible, but with the South Arabian war and moon god, because the moon gods were all war gods. So Hans Kraus wrote, the main god, the national god of war, this is in all South Arabian, yes, nearly in all Semitic monuments, a sure identifying mark of the moon god. So the moon god, according to the scholars I've read, is a war god. This is where they have the need to commit jihad. Okay, and the Abyssinian war and moon god was Mahrem, right? Mahrem, and he was known also as Al-Makkah in Yemen. Now, for instance, in the first and second century, we have a Sabaean plaque. This is the Yemeni plaque to Al-Makkah. And it says here, to Al-Makkah, and you've got a pair of sphinxes. So this is probably derived from Egyptian, right? You've got the tree of life, stolen from the Jews more than likely. And this is dedicated to Al-Makkah of Hiran, which may be Haran in Turkey. So that's a connection again to northern Mesopotamia. And so, and notice we have here within this book, we've got the Sabaean moon and war god Al-Makkah, and Al-Makkah's successor was Allah. Later in time, Al-Makkah, Makkah, became the god Allah. They simply called him Allah. And notice here that he's a war god. He has granted him to return with honor, with spoils of 32 slaughtered enemies, and with booty. Muhammad and his people slaughtered enemies and took booty, right? Then you've got also Al-Makkah was the bull. The bull is the moon god. Notice you have another one, Hiran. Al-Makkah of Hiran. Al-Makkah has granted him trophies, spoils, and captives. So Muhammad took trophies, spoils, and captives. And then you've got here, okay, Al-Makkah's temple at Sira. His exploits included winning control of the incense route and crushing these kingdoms. And this is exactly what Muhammad did. He was copying what the Yemenis did, right? So this was the political influence of what was Muhammad was learning from the Yemenis. So for instance, you have Al-Muk, the lunar god, right? So Al-Muk, Al-Makkah was a lunar god, definitely a moon god, right? The first divinity of the Sabaean pantheon. And then Haubis, another name of the Sabaean lunar god. So their main god was a moon god, just to make it very clear. And Essem is the name of the lunar god, honored as the god who listens to and who hearkens to. So just want to make sure that we understand that you're talking about this moon god. All right. Then you had Wad, also the moon god, also part of the worship within northern Ethiopia, Eritrea region. Okay. Also, again, a moon god. And there are frequent references in the Sabaean text, the Yemeni text, to the Baal's bull. So understand, now you have the main pantheon god of Arabia is Al-Makkah. His main symbol is the bull. And now you've got in the Sabaean text to Baal's bull. So in other words, Al-Makkah is Baal. Baal, as we know, well, so Baal in this case is the moon god Al-Muk, which is Al-Makkah, which is Sin, which is Allah. And this, they have a sacred bull closely associated with him. I hope that makes clear that this is all the same God, Sin, Al-Makkah, Baal, Hubal, which Muhammad worshipped, Hubal, right? Who was consecrated to Hubal. We've covered that. That's all the same God. It's the pagan Babylonian God. So now we're going to look at the influence. Now up here, this is Iraq. This is Turkey up here. This is Syria here. And here you have a place called Hatra. It's an Arab kingdom in Mesopotamia. The Arabs established numerous kingdoms all the way to Canaan, into what we call Israel today. So they had extensive interactions and extensive connections with this pagan area, with Babylon, right? So Hatra was an ancient city in Upper Mesopotamia located in present-day eastern Iraq, okay? It's a caravan city. It flourished in the 2nd century. They were destroyed and deserted in the 3rd century and only discovered in the 19th century, right? It's called Hatra. And it was famous for its fusion of Greek, Mesopotamian, Canaanite, Aramean, and Arabian pantheons. They had temples to everybody because they traded with everybody and they made everyone. Just like in Petra, you had all of these temples to all of these different gods. Everyone worshipped there. They did exactly the same thing. These Arabs in Hatra did the same thing. It was called the House of Allah, okay, Beit Elah, just like what they call the Kaaba today, the House of Allah. It was also known as the enclosure of Shamash, in other words, the sun god. It's possibly the capital of the first Arab kingdom in a chain of Arab cities running from Hatra through Palmyra, through Baalbek, and then to Petra. So Petra was one of many cities that had the very same structure. And they had temples to the Assyrian, Babylonian god Nergal, and the Akkadian god. They had Hermes, the Greek god. They had Athrodagatus, the Syro-Aramean god. They had Alat. Alat was taken from here to Mecca. They had Shamir, who was Arabian, Shams, and Shamash, the Mesopotamian sun god. And they even had Baal Shaman, the famous deity. So Baal was well represented. All of these gods were represented there with the Arabs. And of course, they would trade back and forth with Arabia and so on. Okay. And of course, later ones were called Malik, okay, the kings. So the kings of the Arabs, Malik the king of the Arabs. Let's continue. So let's look at some Quran surahs named after pagan deities. Yasin. We just heard that. Yasin chapter 36. This is called by Muslims as the heart of the unholy Quran. The meaning of Yasin is unknown. The scholars don't know. It's debated amongst Muslim scholars. We can't figure this one out. One interpretation is that it means, "O human being." How about it just means, "O God, Sin," the Babylonian pagan moon god? Okay, supposedly chapter 36 is representative of the divine origin of the Quran. It's the deepest chapter of the Quran, the most important chapter, and it's dedicated to the main god of Babylon, Sin. Right,
Brother,
so I think, yeah.
just to add over here, uh, one of the interpretation is that it means al insan, but the second interpretation is that it is the name of the Allah Ta'ala.
Yes.
So you actually see both interpretations. So let me just show to the people that
Mm,
before they actually say that we are lying, these are very important points for the people to know. This is Tafsir Ibn Kathir. You will not find this information in English. They do not translate it, and it says over here Wakala, and it is stated by Malik and Zaid bin Aslam, according to Malik and Zaid bin Aslam, huwa isma min ismaul Allah Ta'ala, that this is one of the names of Allah Ta'ala. And what you said is that Wasahak wal Hasan was Sufyan bin Uraita, Ain Yasin bimana ya insan means oh human. So they have both of the narrations over here, and majority says we don't know. But once again, both of these narrations are there. You are not lying. I'm just telling you, telling the people this is already there in Islamic scripture, both verdicts.
excellent, thank you. Yeah, so that corroborates what I'm saying. So let's continue. You've also got Al Qamar, the moon. Look, apparently someone pointed out I may have typed in the wrong verses. Okay, so I might have the verse numbers wrong, or the chapter numbers wrong. Okay, so just correct me if I'm wrong here. I may have the chapters wrong. I haven't fixed them yet. Okay, so I have a couple of typos here. So you have a chapter called Al Qamar, the moon. Then there's Ar Rahman. We know where Ar Rahman comes from, and that's God, right? This is the God of the Bible, right? You have Al Buruj, the stars. Then you've got Al Muluk, who's Al Malik, who is the king. Malik, who is Molech. The Akkadian god Mulik is Molech, Moloch. This is the god where they would sacrifice their children to. You will also read in the Sirah, just where the same way that Muhammad was consecrated to Baal, who is Molech, as we've now seen, that he also wanted to sacrifice his youngest or his eldest son to that god. Okay, so within the Sirah, there was the story that so Muhammad's grandfather wanted to sacrifice one of his sons to Hubal, and now we see that Hubal is Molech. So that is further corroboration that if they wanted to make a child sacrifice, this is why God had them destroyed, because they were making child sacrifice. One of the reasons. You have Atarik, the morning star. Venus, also known as Sirius. Okay, so you have Venus and Sirius and Canopus, right? So remember, Allah is the Lord of Sirius. The Lord of Sirius is Sin, right? The Babylonian god. You have Ashams, the sun. So these are all the names of pagan gods. They're not just idle names. These are the names of pagan gods. Okay, this is very important. So let's
And
continue.
just to
Yeah.
add, even Al Najm is the surah, chapter number 53. It is Al Najm.
Mm-hmm.
So the star, Najm means star. So so if you go to Surah Al Najm, like brother said, Allah is taking the swear by the stars, by the
Yes. Yes.
stars,
Yes. Yeah.
right? When it descends, An Najm. So so you have Sirius, which is the name of the star, and then you have Najm. So it's like the moon, the star. Why do moon and stars are so exalted? And brother, let me just add something very quickly. What happens is when we ask Muslims, hey, how can Allah, who is the God, is taking a swear on a star? Like, I
Yeah.
swear by a star. You cannot do that. You are God. God has to swear upon himself or nothing of his creation, because the creation is below God. So
Correct.
how can Allah is saying, I swear by star, I swear by moon, I swear by this particular mountain, or because these were all gods and goddesses. That's what we are showing. That's why Allah can do all these things.
Yeah, and Allah is swearing by one of the gods. So is Allah below that God? One has to wonder. One has to ask, right?
Good question.
Someone just asked me, am I using Quran for a reason? Yeah, the reason I'm using Quran is the book. Just so briefly, this is the Quran. It is the holy book of these guys here. Okay, the Quran is this. You guys can read this yourself. They got
Yep.
three letters here. Now, the earliest, just so you know, the very first symbol of this group was not a cross. Their first symbol was a crescent and a star. This is their very first uniform. This group used to have the Islamic crescent and star on their uniform. They only switched to a cross much later. So understand these guys, understand.
We gotta do a live stream on Gnosticism, man. This will come over there.
But understand, I just wanted to show you that. Okay, it's just that's why I'm calling it the Quran. So, okay, Sirius was worshipped by Nabonidus. Okay, so Nabonidus brought Sirius to, because you had Sin and then Nabonidus, and then you had Sirius below that, and Nabonidus, this pagan god, this pagan king, the last king of Mesopotamia, of Babylon, he lived in Arabia, just north of Medina, right? So notice that they speak of that the Lord Alshira is the star Alpha Canis Majoris, which is very interesting. Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, and we've discussed that. Sirius was worshipped by Arab tribes before Islam. Okay, and here it stresses in this verse, He alone is the Lord of Sirius, that Allah, the creator of all beings, is also the Lord of Sirius. Sin was the head of this pantheon. Sin was the Lord of Sirius. In Al Jalalain, this is a star beyond the constellation of Gemini, which was worshipped in the time of pagandom. Tafsir al-Jalalain tells us, Ibn Abbas tells us, and that he it is who is the Lord of Sirius, which was worshipped, interesting, and he alone is the Lord of Sirius, a star worshipped by ancient pagans. This is in the translations. So understand, so we're talking here about Shin. Here you go, Shinain Ra, okay? Shira. So there you go. Just wanted to throw that out. Now let's have a look. Göbekli Tepe. We mentioned Göbekli Tepe in the beginning, the world's oldest group of temples. Remember Göbekli Tepe, in that location, there's something like 20 temples just at Göbekli Tepe itself. It's actually one of 20 temples. However, around Göbekli Tepe, okay, around that region, there's at least 19 more temples like it. Okay, Göbekli Tepe is one of 19 complexes of temples, right? And it seems that Göbekli Tepe was built to worship Sirius, the star Sirius. Allah is the Lord of Sirius, and this was temples. So according to New Scientist, the world's oldest temple was built to worship the dog star. Göbekli Tepe in southern Turkey was built to worship Sirius. So just thought I would throw that in there. Okay, Sirius worship. Notice these two towers and then the star above. Does that make you think of, if you think of the Kaaba, and you've got the two towers, and you've got, the crescent and the moon and so on, and the star? Göbekli Tepe's central pillars within a similar enclosure would have framed the rising of the dog star at different points in time. So just keep that in mind as something to think about. This is right here where Abraham lived for a long time.
Well said, brother.
Okay, so now let's have a quick look at Moloch. Baal. Moloch was also known as Baal, also known as Ashtoreth, depending. So Moloch is the Canaanite deity associated in biblical sources with child sacrifice. We already know that there was the idea of child sacrifice by Muhammad's grandfather. The name derives from combining the consonants of Hebrew, king, with the vowels of Shem. Okay, so it's used in the Old Testament as a variant for the popular god Baal, also known as the Lord. The Lord. This is the same name that Muhammad first called Allah, the Lord, the Lord, the Lord, before he stole the name of the Christian God, and Rahman. So there are monoliths in even North Africa bearing the engraving Malak, often written Malak Mir and Malak Dim, which means sacrifice of lamb and sacrifice of man. Okay, Moloch was renamed Kronos and then went to Carthage in Greece, and it became a titan and the father of Zeus. We would know it as Saturn. The Romans called him Saturn. Moloch is associated with and equated to Baal. Baal is also a generic term, okay, to designate a god or a ruler, Karbal, okay. However, Moloch and Baal were the same, and we know that Baal is Hubal, and Hubal was the god of the Kaaba.
Let me add something as well.
Yep.
You said that Muhammad stole the name Baal as Lord, but you need to understand another important point, that the grandfather of Muhammad was about to sacrifice the father of Muhammad in front of Baal.
Yes,
As you
that
said
was it.
over
Yeah,
here,
you're
right? As you
right,
said over
you're
here.
right.
So the Baal was already present in Kaaba as one of the major
Was the main
god
god of the Kaaba.
who accepts the sacrifice of humans. And as you showed in the second passage, that he was the one who takes the sacrifice of the humans. So Muhammad's grandfather was already sacrificing Muhammad's father in front of Baal. And then Muhammad's mother actually took Muhammad in the Kaaba and put it under the feet of Samad. So there was another god called Samad. So she put Muhammad in the feet of Samad so that the Samad could protect him. So Muhammad's mother, father, grandfather, they were all worshipper of these kind of gods, as we see over here.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I didn't realize it was Muhammad's father. So yeah, so that's very significant. So Baal comes. There are many roots with many words with the root Malik. You have Mamaluk, Melchizedek, Melkite, Moloch. It means to rule, to dominate, to possess, to own. You have Malik, Mulk, king, and so on. Malkite is the Aramaic. Malke. Okay, you've got Melchizedek from the Hebrew. Melchizedek meaning my king, righteousness. You've got Moloch from the Hebrew, Molech from the Canaanite Moloch, okay? And you've got Mamaluk as well. So that's a very common term meaning king. And don't forget, I've mentioned before, Silam, the root of Islam, means graven idol. So Allah in the Hebrew means a curse. Okay, within the Hebrew, Allah means curse. But let's have a look. In the Bible, we read, "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image." Now, we are often told that the Arabic SLM means salam, okay, which means peace, or it means Islam, which means peace. And they'll say, oh, and they will say, no, it doesn't mean peace. It means to submit, submission. They'll go, oh, yes, sorry, I made a mistake. Okay, well, so it's a common Semitic word, and it means image. Silim means image or heathen gods, as in a graven image. Okay, we'll see it in these Bible verses, they speak out against it. But Silim, the very earliest known form of Silim, is in the name of Shalim, the ancient god of the dusk, which is Venus, the evening star. Okay, and he's the child of El, the main god, with Athera, the sun goddess. Right, so the moon god with the star goddess, with the sun goddess. Sorry, in the Akkadian, Salmu means inscribed or graven image or statue. In Aramaic and Syriac, Salma, Esalem, means image, idol. Again, a graven image or an idol. Abraham was told not to bow down to idols, not to bow down to graven images. This is found in Nabatean, Palmyrene, and in Arab Hatra in northern Mesopotamia. This, we just mentioned Hatra. This is where they got all of these foreign gods from, right? And this is where it seems that the name Esalem might derive from. They've taken it, graven images from these temples to graven images in Hatra. Then in pre-Islamic Arabia, an Esalem is an object dedicated to a deity. So in other words, it's a statue dedicated to a deity. So the very first use of Islam, of Salim, is not for Salam. It's not for Islam. It's Shalim, and then it's for graven idol. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images and bow down to it. So this is a violation of the 10 Commandments. Right, so I'll move on. Okay, so notice it is used in the Hebrew. It's used of anything that is vain, an image. Okay, so even in Arabic, it's an image. In the Syrian and the Chaldean, it's a well-known. It's an idol. So understand, even within the Arabic, they knew that this was a graven idol. So Esalem, salam, Islam means to submit to the idol. Effectively, that's the implication here. Okay, I'll skip that. Okay, we've talked about this before. These are all of these stars. Okay, so Morocco has a pentagram flag. You can see the moon and star, moon and star. This is the pagan image. And here we've got the pentagram. Okay, here you've got the pentagram on the star of Morocco. Now, Hilal and Qamar. Let's talk about a few more pagan gods. So the classical Arabic name of the god in the form of the full moon is called Al-Qamar. But in the name of just the moon with the, just the horns of the moon, when the moon is fresh and new, that is Hilal. Okay, so you have the luminous one. You have Sayin, which is cognate of the Babylonian Sin. So Sayin is also sin, right? You have Kal, and you have Wad, and you have Warak. So Warak ibn Nafal, Waraka ibn Nafal, that is actually a name that is pagan and is part of the Sabaeans. Now, a very common act of moon worship among the Semites, right? This would be amongst the Arabs and also among the pagan Jews of the day, the pagan Hebrews of the day, was when they would see the moon or they would see the statue of their moon god, they would kiss their hand. Okay, you'll see here the moon, Hilal al-Qamar. The crescent is called Hilal. The crescent moon is called Hilal. Even the planets are called al-Qamar. Okay, now notice the gods Sayin and Anbi had corresponding gods in Mesopotamia, Sin and Nabu. So understand, Sin is Sayin. So this is in the Encyclopedia of the Quran. Okay, now notice in Job 31, we have, if I've regarded the sun in its radiance, or the moon moving in splendor, so that my heart was secretly enticed, and my hand offered them a kiss of homage. That would have been an iniquity calling for judgment, for I would have denied God above. So understand that Muslims, when they go around the Kaaba, they kiss the Kaaba on the southern corner if they can, or they kiss their hand as they go around. So when one reaches, so this is the worship. This is when you go do the Hajj and you go around the Kaaba counterclockwise. When one reaches the Yemeni corner, one does not kiss it, but one touches it and then kisses one's hand. This is to make the pagan kiss to the moon god. Anything from you, Adam, before I go on?
No, brother, thank you. Carry on.
Okay, so so I'm going to skip that section. So I'm going to skip this. Waraka ibn Nawfal. I just want to mention that his whole story is very legendary. We don't have much, but he was the son of Nawfal, which is another pagan god, and he's Abdul Uzza. So his father was clearly a pagan, and even Waraka. This is a derivative of a pagan god. Okay, so I'll just leave it at that. Also, Attar, is a relic of the Prophet. Attar is also the name of the moon god, and in Islamic astrology, it's a technical term for the theory of causality. In other words, your life is affected by the stars. The stars affect your life. It's astrology with reference to the influence of the stars. And in Islam, stars are considered higher beings possessing a soul. This is what the pagans believe because the stars are the children of the sun and the moon, and therefore they are children. They are real beings. And in Islam, they still believe this today. Okay, so I'll move on. Okay, so by oath of the beloved shining star Muhammad. So here they discuss Muhammad by the star when it setteth. So Allah Himself makes an oath, on the shining star. You can see this is a bit they're fudging the story here, but Allah makes an oath by the star, and that is very strange. And even Abbas confirms Allah swore by the stars when they set. Why would it do that? Why would Allah do that? Is Allah understand for Allah to swear by a pagan god? It's crazy. Tafsir ibn Kathir confirms, I swear by the setting of the stars, and that is a great oath. Why would Allah make an oath on the stars? That is really,
And
really
why is
strange.
it a great oath? That's an important point. Why is it a great oath?
Well, why is it sorry?
Why is it a great oath? Like it's not
A
just an
great
oath, it's a great
yes.
oath.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So let's have a look. So in Islam, you've got, so in the Encyclopedia of the Quran, we're going to talk about light. Okay, page 187, we talk about Kamar, the moon. Islamic letters have the Kamaria, the moon letters. Okay. Unfortunately, in Islam, one of the princes of Tajweed, reading the Quran basically, you have solar or sun letters, and then you have 14 solar letters and 14 moon letters. Now, why would you have sun and moon letters in Arabic? You have sun and moon letters, and then of course the prophet Al Rasul is pronounced as Ar Rasul, not Al Rasul, because Ra, don't forget that's an Egyptian god, is a blending sun letter. Ra happens to be, if I recall, the Egyptian sun god. So you tell me why that is there. Understand? So what is very interesting is that you've got all of these names. The new crescent moon is Hilal. So you've got an Arabic alphabet that is based on sun letters and moon letters, and in fact, you have earth, air, fire, and water letters. This is all taken from pagan occult practices. Now, interesting. Muhammad is called the Nur. Allah is the Nur. There's the Nuri Muhammadi, the light of Muhammad. There's the light of Allah, the Nur. What is interesting? The light refers to the sun and the moon. And where the moonlight is called Nur and the sunlight is called Diya. Now, interesting, Muhammad spreads moonlight. Muhammad is the Nur, Muhammad is the moonlight, and Allah Himself is the moonlight, not the sunlight. Why would they be the light of the moon? Which is very strange because it's a moon god and you are professing the light of the moon. Wouldn't you agree, Adam?
100%, brother.
Yeah. So again, we're back to the moon. So the pagan moon religion. In other cultures, the moon was female and the sun was male. That was typically quite normal. The genders are reversed in Arabia. The moon is masculine, and the same happened in Babylon. The moon was masculine. The star is the sun, the child of the moon and the sun, and they fast from moon to moon in Islam. Islam is a lunar calendar, and Islam's mosques all have pagan crescent moons above them. This is Hilal, the crescent moon. Here we've got this massive building, right, with the world's biggest clock above Mecca, and you've got the pagan crescent moon. This is the horns of the bull right here, which is the moon god, and this is the ancient Babylonian symbol of the star and the moon. And they love photos of the moon above the Kaaba. They go crazy for pictures like that. The moon aligns directly above the Kaaba in Makkah's Grand Mosque. Notice we had that earlier temple to Sirius. You had the two towers and the star between. Well, now you've got the two towers and the moon between.
Mashallah. They don't even know what they're doing, man. That's the
Yeah,
whole irony. They don't even know what they are doing.
yeah. I mean, this is crazy stuff, right? Notice that the Kaaba doors. Okay, these are the Kaaba doors. They've got the sun and the moon on them. The sun and the moon. The sun and the moon. These are the Kaaba doors today. They've got the sun and the moon on them. The sun symbol and the moon symbol, which is crazy. This is the previous doors before the doors were changed. This is the sun on the doors, the sun symbol. Okay, and notice in pre-Islamic era, so Yahweh, just briefly. Okay, Christians used to use the name Abdullah, the servant of Allah, as a baptismal name. Okay, Abdullah was also Muhammad's father's name, so the Christians used to use the name Abdullah, servant of Allah. Arab Christians also used the name Abdullah. Okay, but Christians had the God of the Bible in mind. Of course, Muslims, Abdullah was the name of Muhammad's pagan father. He was named after Allah, the Makkan moon god, right? Which we knew as Al Makkah, right? So the Makkan moon god was called Al Makkah. Interesting. Think about it. The Meccan moon god was called Al Makkah, right? Makkah, I think that's pretty linked. So, and also he was also called Hilal, the crescent, and Qamar, the moon. Okay. So the pre-Islamic Arab Christians, okay, called Yahweh by the title Allah. Okay, the god. And the Arabs called their high moon god Al Makkah also Allah. So they were simply calling different gods with the name of the god, and they were vying, they were basically competing for who was going to be the main deity. And the word for the sun in the Semitic languages is always feminine. Okay, that is very interesting. The word for sun in the Semitic and Arabic is a Semitic language, is always feminine, but for some reason the Arabic word for moon is of the masculine gender in Arabic. Very, very odd. It's a deviation from the standard. So the Arabic word for sun is feminine, which is very, very odd. So the pagan Arabs looked upon the sun as a goddess and the moon as a god. Now, most Quran translations get this wrong because they swap them, male and female, because they come from cultures where that is typical. Moon is female, male, sun is male. But unfortunately, they swap it around and they follow the Babylonian convention. So just that I should raise that as something interesting. Now, coins with the crescent and the star. Notice these are from Hadrian. This is from the pagan Romans. Crescent and star. Many stars and the crescent. Now, notice here from Turkey. Okay, this is from the 8th century. Now, I showed previously that Turkish coins from the 1st century and before, the pagan Turks were worshipping. Notice this guy has two horns, right? Well, this is, I don't think it's Dul Qarnayn. It may be Dul Qarnayn, but he's got bull's horns. He's got two crescents right here, and he's got the crescent and the star. You've got the Persian Sasanian Empire, crescent, okay, right there, and you've got the star. And the Parthians, crescent and star. Haran in Turkey, crescent and star. This is from the 1st century. And oddly enough, you have the Templar seal. This is from the Templars, also using the crescent and the star. That's a longer story, but the Templars seem to have been corrupted by the Sufis. Ancient
Just to add
Egyptian.
over
Yeah,
here, one thing I wanted to say,
yeah,
but you started on the next slide. Sorry.
sure. Yeah.
Basically, the people who does not know Arabic would not comprehend when you say moon is female and star is female, and they cannot translate it well. So the problem here is you need to understand Arabic. In Arabic, everything has a feminine or a masculine way. Like even a chair, a table, a wall, a tree. It's not an it. So they can actually define it as a when they are speaking. Uh, uh, the sentence structure defines the noun as male or female in the way they speak it. This is the same for Urdu as well. Means uh, when we speak, the sentence structure defines in a way whether we are speaking of an object in a masculine form or a feminine form. For example, bee. A bee in Arabic will always be a female. It will be referred as a female. It can never be referred as a male, right? Even though B is a kursi. Kursi will be like a chair, basically, will always be taken as a masculine. So basically, the whole idea is that in Arabic, all the nouns, whether they can have a female or can have a male or not, because a chair cannot have a male or female, but every noun object is defined in a sentence whether it is a male or female. So that's what Lloyd is saying, Brother Lloyd.
Excellent, thank you. Someone asked about tajweed. It's the art of reciting the Quran. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Sano. Thanks for explaining that. All right. So now let's have a look at the ancient Egyptian. Notice even in ancient Egypt. Okay. So these old stories here, ancient Egyptian moon goddesses, crescent and a star. So the star didn't always have rays. Often it could be the sun in there as well, but also you have the star, as in Venus. Okay. So notice all of these crescents, crescent and star. This is from Turkey. Notice crescent and star, crescent and star. That goes back. Now let's have a look at Yemen. Okay, let's go have a look at Yemen, at the coins of the Yemeni culture. Okay, so what you've got here is Venus and moon. So you have the star and the crescent, right? Crescent and star, right? The Venus moon couplet. And this is the symbol of Al Makkah. This glyph here is the symbol of Al Makkah, the moon god. And this is the Bakka symbol. Now, in Islam, you have Makkah, there's one mention of Makkah, and there's one mention of Bakka, right? Now, Bakka also is Islamic, and it actually means, in the Yemeni dialect, it means glory be to God, right? In other words, glory be to Allah. That's Bakka. So Bakka is Yemeni, and it means glory be to Al Makkah or glory be to Allah. Okay, and this is a coin to Al Makkah. You'll notice three of these little pillars on top of the bull's horns. Three of these pillars on top of the bull's horns. Always three. There are currently three pillars inside of the Kaaba, and you'll see this repeated everywhere. All right, and you'll notice even on this Yemeni coin I got from another book, they have the name Sin inscribed on it. So the same god Al Makkah is also the god Sin. They worship the god Sin in Yemen, and Sin is Al Makkah, is Baal, is Allah. Okay, Dul Qarnayn, just briefly. So this is Dul Qarnayn, all right? So Allah's pagan moon association is seen on every mosque, yet Muslims tell us not to believe our eyes, right? We're supposed to believe that this pagan God who goes back BC is the same as the God of the Bible. They clearly are not. Notice though, you have King Dul Qarnayn, supposedly a good Muslim, and it means the two-horned one, or the possessor of two horns. Okay, so he had the crescent. What's the date of these coins? So some of these coins, I didn't put the dates, and I've got them somewhere. These would all be so. This kingdom ran from 800 BC, okay, to about 275 AD. So this kingdom was from 800 BC to about 275 AD. So they'll be in that range. So they're all pre-Islamic, and some of them will be 800 years before Christ, up to about 300 years post. Okay, so I can confirm these. I've got this. This is in. I can have a look at these books later. Okay, so now in the Quran, so you've got Dul Qarnayn, the two-horned one, referring to the crescent on his royal crown. The crescent indicates his allegiance to the moon god, right? So Dul Qarnayn watched the sun set in a muddy puddle, and it shows that Dul Qarnayn is a parable. Of course, it's myth. It's stolen from the Alexander romances. It's actually we all know it's Alexander the Great. They claim it's not. Okay, but obviously you've got the sun setting in a puddle, which is, in other words, it's a pro-lunar message. It's an anti-sun message. It's pro-lunar. And interesting, the Quran makes a mistake. I found her and her people. This is the Queen of Sheba, and they were the Sabians, who were moon worshippers. I found them prostrating to the sun instead of Allah. But of course, they were moon worshippers, so they've got this fact wrong, and they'll bend over backwards to try and explain it away. Okay, so this very well-known scholar, Egerton Sykes, wrote that Allah seems to have been preceded by El Makkah, known as Al Makkah, the Sabaean moon god, who was modeled on the Mesopotamian moon god Sin. So there you go, Allah, from another scholar, an archaeologist. Okay, and Dul Qarnayn was a worshipper of Allah. But okay, ignore the Cyrus the Great thing. There's no actual reason, so ignore that. But notice this here, these horns of the ibex. Okay, it's time to talk about the ram, but we'll talk about the ibexes in a bit. Let's look at the Yemen Hadith. Okay, we are advised to seek knowledge from Yemen, according to ghaib.com, right? Very important Islamic website, whatever, the ghaib, the secret knowledge. The Prophet said, the people of Yemen, okay, have come to you, sensitive in their souls, softest of hearts. Belief, Iman or Aqidah, okay, Iman, Aqidah theology is from Yemen. The wisdom, the hikmah is from Yemen. Notice the Prophet taught that we should seek out Iman and Aqidah, faith and theology, from the people of Yemen. Right. Narrated Abu Hurairah, the Messenger of Allah said, the faith is Yemeni and the wisdom is Yemeni. Interesting. Now, the Yemenis worshipped Al Makkah, the moon god. And we know already from the very first episode, one of the first slides, we mentioned that you've got the Sabaeans, who, according to a 9th or 10th century Islamic scholar, had exactly the same practices or nearly identical practices to Muslims today. The worship of these moon god Sabaeans is nearly identical to modern Islam. And they were told to take faith and wisdom from Yemen. The belief is that of the Yemenites. This is Sahih Muslim. That was Tirmidhi, I just read. Even in Hadith, in Bukhari, the capacity for understanding religion is Yemenite, and the hikmah, the wisdom, is Yemenite. So there's something very important about Yemen. The belief is that of the Yemenites. The understanding of the faith is that of the Yemenites. That's according to Sahih Muslim. And the Prophet said the belief is Yemenite as well in Sahih Bukhari. Okay, while afflictions appear from the east. So understand they had to take religion from Yemen. Well, if we look at the Sabaean practices, their practices are that of the moon god, of the moon worshippers of Yemen. Right? The moon gods of the South Arabian kingdoms were, according to the traditional view, Sin of the Hadramaut, Wad, Am, and Al Makkah. Okay, the belief is Yemenite and the wisdom is Yemenite. Again, Bukhari, right? And we asked Anas bin Malik, Anas of the king of Malik, the Malik. He was. This means the god that he's worshiping. They don't know. They don't say which god. Okay, but it could be Moloch. Which garment did Allah's messenger, may police be upon him, love or like to wear? And he said, the mantle of Yemen. Yemen was important to Muhammad. I've not seen the Prophet touching except the two Yemenite corners, the ones facing Yemen. That's the southern corner and the eastern corner. Apparently, they are, obviously, you've got the stones from Yemen there. And he said, I heard the messenger of Allah say, touching them erases sins. So these are very important. The Yemeni corner is extremely important in Islam. And elsewhere, Ibn Taymiyyah argues that it is only permissible to touch and kiss the two Yemeni stones. I thought you weren't supposed to kiss the Kaaba, but okay. You can touch and kiss the Yemeni stones, the black stone in the eastern corner and that in the southwest corner. So, according to Ibn Taymiyyah, Sheikh al-Islam, you do that because those corners are important. I'll pause for a moment. Adam, anything?
So, brother, carry on. Yes, you are right on spot.
Okay, so I just want to see where I am so that I can check my pacing. Okay, so we're doing pretty
Sheikh
well.
al-Islam is really good as well.
Yeah, no. Okay, so we should finish this today, Adam. I think we will finish on time today, so we should be within bounds. Okay.
Amen, brother.
Okay. So if you have anything to say, please do. So the last hour, guys, let's wrap this up. So let's talk about Monday. Monday is common to many cultures. Monday is taken from the moon day. It's the day of the moon. And of course, the Arabs took this from all the cultures around them. You had the Greeks, the Romans. You had about 7 different cultures that were involved in. They all had the moon day, and that's where the day of Monday comes from, moon day. So let's have a look at this wonderful website. And the Messenger of Allah said, the gates of paradise are flung open on Monday and Thursday, according to Tirmidhi. Okay, Monday is given such incredible importance in the heavens. It is only right that we give it equal importance here on earth. So Monday is important even in heaven, according to Islam, and we need to give it equal importance on earth. We could fast. It is sunnah on Mondays because Muhammad fasted on moon days. Let's call Mondays moon days. We could plant a tree. That's very odd because Abraham was told to stop worshipping trees and pillars. Let's have a look. Monday, the day of the moon god. Abu Qatada said, Allah's messenger was asked about fasting on Monday, and he said, it's the day when I was born. So Muhammad was born on a Monday, and revelation was sent down to Muhammad on a Monday. That's Sahih Muslim. Okay, Monday must be important. So I'll skip this, but basically, let's never mind. Monday is important to religious day. In Islam, Muslims are encouraged to fast on Mondays. Muhammad fasted on Mondays. Monday is the 21st of Ramadan, just before sunrise, August 10th, 610, when Muhammad was 40 lunar years, 6 months and 12 days old, which is 39 solar years, 3 months and 22 days. Well, that's the day he started to get revelation. Okay? The black stone was placed in the Kaaba on a Monday. The Miraj, his ascent to paradise on the Burak, was on a Monday. Very odd. And let's have a look at this wonderful article, 11 Virtues of Mondays that Muslims need to know. So let me just go back here and I will bring up this little interesting article. 11 Virtues of Mondays that all of us need to know. Let's go have a quick look at this. Okay, Virtues of Mondays. So this is the muslimhands.org.uk website. Okay, let's have a look. We will discuss the divine connections with Mondays, the day of the moon, and the occasions in the life of the Prophet which took place on Mondays. Okay, fine and well. Okay, Allah created the trees on a Monday. Abraham was told to stop worshipping trees and pillars. And oddly enough, now you have Muslims are getting all excited about trees being made on a Monday. Let's have a look. The doors of paradise are flung open on a Monday. Okay, that's great. It's only right that we give it equal importance. Muslims are forgiven on a Monday, on the day of the moon. Allah forgives every Muslim, except two have abandoned one another. Okay, that's great. Deeds are presented to Allah on Monday. Okay, great stuff. Let's have a look on it. Okay, the Prophet was born on a Monday. That's fancy. I was born, and on it, revelation was sent out me, according to Sahih Muslim. Muhammad raised a black stone to the Kaaba on a Monday. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, the Prophet was born on a Monday. He raised the black stone on a Monday. He received revelation on a Monday. The Quran was revealed on a Monday. The
I'm
Quran was
sorry.
revealed.
I'm
What?
sorry. Carry on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Mirage took place on a Monday. The Hijrah began on a Monday. Okay, that's great. The Prophet arrived in Medina on a Monday, and the Prophet died on a Monday. Do you think Moon Day is a little important? Yeah, Adam?
I'm just adding some music behind it. So many Mondays, man.
Yeah,
I don't know how you collect these evidences, but it's just right on spot, man. Oh, and they call everyone else as mushrik. Come
yeah.
on, lad.
And Recent Answer says note that trees on Monday was their number one item, the very first item, as if it's the most important, because according to the pagans, worship of trees was one of their things. They would worship trees and pillars. And Abraham, as I covered before, was specifically told to stop worshiping trees and pillars, pagan pillars.
Yeah, trees looks
Yeah,
like pillars.
crazy stuff, right? Monday. It's just another manic Monday. Yeah. Where's the
I
bangles?
have never thought about that. I have read the rituals of Monday in my life, but I have never thought how much pagan that would be. But thank you, man. Like imagine I'm coming as a Muslim. It is a shock to me right now to see that connection.
Wow, I'm glad. Well, I'm glad I can shock you because I mean, man, you know so much more than me about some of this. So, I
Not at
mean,
all. You are way far ahead, brother.
okay, so let's look at Al Makkah, okay? Let's look in the Encyclopedia of the Spirits. That's fun. Lord of the Horned Goats, Lord of the Ibexes, also known as Il Makkah, Al Muk Ilumku Allah. Fascinating. Origin Sabaean, Yemeni. Okay? He was the preeminent deity of the South Arabian kingdom of Sabah, now modern Yemen, and he was sometimes called this great temple in Marib in Yemen was sometimes called the eighth wonder of the ancient world. It was dedicated to Al Makkah. His planet is the moon. Okay, this here is just here because the reason I keep mentioning all this archaeological evidence and all of this academic evidence, all these encyclopedias, all these scholars, all these PhDs, okay, is because Alfonso, John Week, okay, Jason Boring, he constantly wants to claim that Al-Makka wasn't a moon god. And he mentions two scholars, Perrine and Garbini, who got it wrong, who got it backwards, whatever. That's the moon god. Sacred animals, the bull, okay? And here they have, he's represented by a sun over the crescent moon. It could also be a full moon within cattle horns. A full moon within cattle horns. Okay? So that Hilal, full moon, cattle horns. Okay? So understand, let's have a look. You have the South Arabian moon god. So let's look at Arabian pagan stones, the moon god culture. Here you've got the pagan horns of the bull, okay? The crescent moon, the Hilal, and the star, right? And the star, right? And they mentioned here the South Arabian moon god remained supreme, and the sun goddess, and their son was the star god, ranked always below him, because Sirius, remember, Allah is the lord of Sirius. The moon god is above Sirius. Sirius is the sun of the sun and the moon. So the Babylonian symbol of the sun disk in the crescent of the moon. Well, there you go. And sometimes it's the moon disk in the crescent of the moon. Okay. So here we go. Now let's have a look at this. Military expeditions led by the Prophet Al-Maghazi. And let's look at chapter 70 in the Sunnah, Sahih al-Bukhari. Okay, Sahih al-Bukhari. We used to worship stones, and when we found a better stone than the first one, we would throw the first one and take the new one. Sahih al-Bukhari. Okay, book 64, Hadith 401. So they used to worship stones, just like Abraham when he was a pagan. So again, it's just they're covering up their paganism. And that's revealed here in Sahih Bukhari. And they used to worship stones with the image on them. So now let's move to the Kaaba. Are there any questions in the comments that I've missed? Okay, just at me with my name so that I can catch it. Okay, if you need to, if there's any names, just let me know, Adam, if you see anything in the chat.
Yeah, sure. I
So
will
let's
do
have a
that.
look. Let's look at the Kaaba. Okay, we've mentioned previously about slide 28 with Adam, with Abraham, who was told to stop worshiping pillars. Okay, so notice within the Kaaba you have 3 pillars. There used to be 6 pillars. Okay, there There used to be 6. I'm just going to quickly deviate to Quranics.com. Into Quranics.com, I'm going to search. I'm going to go to the Hadiths, and I'm going to go to pillars, 6 pillars. I'm just going to type that in. And notice in Sahih Muslim, and in it there were 6 pillars, and Muhammad stood near a pillar and made supplication. So let's just go there quickly. It's in Sahih Bukhari as well. I'll just take the first one. And he entered the Kaaba, and there were 6 pillars, and he stood near a pillar and he made supplication. Now, do remember that we showed that in the temples to Al-Makkah, they either had 8 pillars or 6 pillars. So remember that. They have 6 pillars because some denominations had 8 pillars and some had 6 pillars. So now you've got, yeah, I've got fastest internet. Oh, thanks, man. I have 750 megabits. Yeah, unfortunately, you have to take this package here, and they don't give you much of a choice. You got to pay for it. But it's really fast here in Warsaw. It's crazy fast. Okay, so now you've got these pagan pillars, but notice this. Notice here, you've got, this is the Kaaba in the middle, and here you've got the crescent moon right next to it. They're called the Hatim, and you've got the stars right here. You've got these little lamps because the stars are lamps, and you've got, notice here, you've got the crescent moon, you've got the Kaaba. The Kaaba is black because the night is black, and the moon, of course, the moon is in the black sky, the night sky. Okay, and of course, previously, the Kaaba was covered with the cloth of Yemen, the cloth of Yemen. Okay, let's continue. So let's have a look here, right? So now this is an internal view. There are now 3 pillars. It's made smaller, clearly. So there used to be 6 pillars, and Muhammad prayed to the pillar, just like Abraham was told to stop praying to pillars. Okay, now have a look here. What you'll see is you've actually got this little circle around here in the Kaaba. This is the sun. This is the moon. We know that this is the moon. Okay, and the people are the stars. They are moving counterclockwise. And if you look here, this is Sirius, the dog star, and all the stars move counterclockwise around Sirius because the Kaaba is the same home of Allah on earth as it is in heaven, according to Islamic astrology. So Allah is here and everything moves around him. And on earth, this is his home and everything moves around him. And therefore, the Muslims go counterclockwise, just like the pagans did, around Sirius, the star. Your thoughts, Adam?
Brother, you're already right on spot. By the way, every Muslim, when they go to the Hajj, they have to offer, they need to, not have to, they need to, they want to offer prayer inside the Hatam, inside the inside the Hatam. If you go back to the previous one, and
Sure.
in during the time of Hajj, when they are trying to offer Nawafil inside the Hatam, usually it is so squeezed that a Muslim, when
Mm.
he was go to the Sajud, when they put their head down on the floor, they cannot, because they're so close by to each other that their head will go on the back of another guy who is in front of him.
Wow.
That's how much crowded it is, and they have to get inside and pray inside there. And that's a fact. Ask anyone who has visited Kaaba during the time of Hajj.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. So I mean, so someone is saying we used to worship stones. We still do, but we used to as well. Reason answer is, yeah, we used to worship stones, but we still worship stones, but we used to. Exactly. They worship the stone. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Adam. Thanks for that. Yeah. I mean, this is crazy. So, guys, this is the people. The people are the stars. Okay, and you can see here's the disk of the sun. The sun is bigger than the moon, and here's the right. Let me continue here. Now, notice it says they say a prayer when circumambulating the Kaaba, even with the rain spout at the top of the Kaaba. One says, "Give me to drink from the cup of your Prophet Muhammad, after which I will never thirst." Now, obviously, that's basically you get double reward there. Fantastic, Sheikh Ahmad. Yeah, I mean, this is basically taken from the Bible, but of course, I mean, Muhammad. This is plagiarized. This is from Jesus. I just want to bring this up very, very briefly. Okay, this is the life of Muhammad, the Sirah by Sayyid Akhtar Rizvi. This guy's triple Sayyid. Okay, triple descendant of Muhammad. It says here, entering the Masjid ul Haram, the Holy Prophet started breaking and demolishing the idols, just like Abraham did. Oddly enough, just like the story of Abraham, there were 360 idols fixed in the walls and on the roof of the Kaaba with lead or tin. Any idol near which the Prophet went and towards which Muhammad pointed his cane, saying, "Right has come and falsehood has vanished. Falsehood is destined to vanquish." The idol fell headlong on the ground with no one touching it. So Muhammad was Harry Potter. He could do magic just like Harry Potter. Just so we know.
Mashallah.
Yeah, just wanted to mention that for you guys, just so you learned something. Now, the Kaaba, brief overview. It's a cubical structure in the center of the Masjid al-Haram in Mecca. And the Baqarah verse, we just changed, the Baqarah verse established the Kaaba as the direction of prayer to which Muslims must address 5 daily prayers. Okay? Worshippers gather in the courtyard of the Masjid al-Haram. They circle the Kaaba 7 times, called tawaf, during which time they kiss and they touch the black stone, al-Hajar al-Aswad. Okay? And they touch it. It's in the eastern corner of the Kaaba. Today, 15 meters tall. It measures 10 by 5 by 12 meters, aligned roughly north, south, east, west. Now, it predates Islam and is claimed to have been first built by Abraham and his son Ishmael, although there are no archaeological findings whatsoever to support this. The pre-Islamic Kaaba was rebuilt many times in Mecca, and they used it to house sacred objects, including the Black Stone, and the Quraysh tribe rebuilt the Kaaba with alternating courses, layers of stone and wood. The inner space was divided into 2 rooms, one of which housed the Black Stone. The interior walls were decorated with paintings of Abraham, Mary, Jesus, angels, prophets, and trees. Trees. Because the pagans would worship trees and pillars. That's why there were 6 pillars and trees, because Abraham was told in the Bible, stop worshiping trees and pillars. The exterior was covered with the habrat cloth from Yemen. And what's interesting, and we will come to that, this whole thing of having stone, wood, well, because it used to be a church. And guess who used to build their churches like that? The Ethiopians. The Ethiopians built their churches like that. Okay, so let's have a look. So the shrine at this time had 2 doors and a wooden staircase for roof access. And then it was blah, blah, blah. It was demolished and then it was rebuilt. Okay, the Abbasid caliphs contributed to the design of the Kaaba. They covered it with the kiswa, a black cloth bought from Egypt. It used to be covered by a cloth from Yemen, oddly enough. Okay, and of course, the calligraphy is now the Shahada. There's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the Prophet of Allah. Blah, blah. I'll skip all this. Okay, the Hatim is the circular wall. It's about 1.25 meters tall. And it's supposedly also built by Abraham. The black stone is in the eastern corner, but okay, let's skip that. Notice originally, even according to Bakum al-Rumi, so according to the Sirah as well, they put in 6 columns originally. Now there are 3 columns. Okay, there were 6 monolithic Okay, now notice an inscription. Let's go back to Yemen, to one of the major temples there, to the god Al-Makkah. It says 6 monolithic pillars mentions Al-Makkah of Baran. So in other words, rebuilt by the Ethiopians, exactly reasoned. Okay, and notice now, even within the Kaabas, remember there were Kaabas in Yemen as well, these temples to Al-Makkah, to Makkah. The temples to Makkah would have 6 monolithic pillars, and they mentioned Al-Makkah of Baran, so they had pillars as well to their god. Okay, and notice the ibexes and the bulls, okay, are moon god symbols, and the warriors with severed hands, because they had warriors with severed hands, show that Al-Makkah was a war and a moon god. And the severed hands reminds one of the punishment set forth in the Quran. Okay, and notice the angels circumambulated in heaven around the celestial Kaaba, and the Kaaba on earth was similar to the one in heaven. Tabari related that Muhammad connected the worship of Allah and the movement of the stars. So understand, so now you've got star worship. Now we're back to paganism. Let's continue. These statues of Mary and Jesus remained in the Kaaba from the time of Muhammad until the Kaaba was destroyed by fire in 683. And the house used to contain 6 pillars, just like the temples of Al-Makkah. The representation of Jesus was on the pillar next door. This is according to Al-Azraqi. Okay, this was destroyed in the fire at the time of Ibn al-Jubair or Zubair, and Atta said blah, blah, blah. Moving on. So now a little bit of history. Okay, 6 pillars, 5 gaps, 5 prayers. Yes, thank you, reason. 6 pillars, the gaps. You would pass through the gaps to go from the secular realm into the holy realm. Right, so you had 6 pillars. You'd walk through 5 gaps, 5 prayers. Don't forget the Kaaba. Just correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but if you want to be extra Muslim and get extra points, you can also do 7 prayers. There's one that's
Yes.
later and there's one that's earlier, because they used to sometimes have 8 pillars with 7 gaps for 7 prayers. Correct?
Yes, you can
Yes.
actually do chasht, and you can do tahajjud and chasht. So you have 2 more additional prayers if you want to get extra rewards. It is not a compulsory prayer, but they are there.
Yes, correct, correct. So yeah, so you could pray 7 times, not just 5. That's the 8 pillars or 7 prayers. The gaps. You go through the gaps. You walk through this fake entrance, right? These pillars are just these fake entrances. That's how you get to Allah. Now notice in this one, we're going to talk a little bit of megaliths, and we'll start winding down. So let's look at this book. This is called The Sciences. This is May, June 1982. Okay. In its origins, it now appears the Kaaba might even have had features in common with the Great Stone Circle on Salisbury Plain. The Great Stone Circle on Salisbury Plain is known as Stonehenge. Let's have a look at Stonehenge. This is Stonehenge. Okay, you guys should be familiar with Stonehenge. So it seems that the Kaaba originally might have had features in common with megalithic temples, right? And there was a proliferation of gods was worshipped. Some of them were tribal and associated with sacred stones and trees. Interesting. So the Kaaba had trees inside it originally, and there's a sacred stone in the one corner still today. Okay. So, okay, and associated with sacred stones and trees and astral, and it was linked. Okay, so it's astrologically based, and it's linked with the sun, the moon, Venus, and prominent stars such as Canopus. Okay, at the time, gods were worshipped who were linked to Canopus, Venus, the moon, and the sun. In the early part of the 7th century, the walls were built up, probably in alternate layers of stone and wood, just like the churches in Ethiopia, which is very, very interesting. Okay, now let's have a look. Okay, so we mentioned now that gods, ancient pagan gods, were linked to Canopus. Canopus is the second brightest, just like Venus. Okay, so if the Kaaba is Venus and everyone just circles around Venus, Canopus is the second brightest star. Venus is the brightest. It's not a star technically. Sirius is the brightest star. Sorry, but okay, the second brightest star is Canopus. Let's have a look. The major axis of the Kaaba is aligned to the rising of Canopus at about the 1st century AD. It is precisely aligned to the southernmost setting position of the moon at the winter solstice over the hills to the southwest of Mecca. So the Kaaba is astrologically aligned to the rising of Canopus. So it is the point of Sirius, the dog star. Okay, don't forget, we just mentioned that Göbekli Tepe, the very oldest religion, the very oldest temples in the world, are probably temples of the worship of Sirius. The Kaaba claims to be effectively at Sirius, which is the pole star, and everyone circles around it, right? And so now, but it's also aligned to the second brightest star, Canopus, and it's aligned to the moon. And in fact, it is also aligned to the four winds, because it is not just astrological, it is meteorological, just like these pagan megaliths, like Stonehenge and other henges around the world. Every 19 years, the crescent moon sets at the spot on the horizon visible along the southeast side of the Kaaba, and the Muslims do make a big deal out of this. The lunar alignment is also found in many megalithic sites in Europe. Adam Seeker, so yes, Enoch talks about stars as entities, and the Ethiopian Bible stars Enoch as scripture. Yes, it considers it canonical, and yes, there is a connection. Yes, 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 there is a connection. Islam considers the stars as living beings, living entities that have souls. Okay, living entities that have souls. So understand, we're now connecting this Kaaba, which has megalithic features, with, I just mentioned there's a place in Jordan. I showed you some of that last week, a place in Jordan, which is 9,000 years old, as well as, which were these pillar statues. And then, of course, you've got these megalithic statues close by in Arabia, and then you've got these megalithic statues as well around the world. So there's a connection. This goes back to megalithic pagan worship. All things considered, it is likely the Kaaba was a kind of microcosm of the celestial and terrestrial universe of the pagan Arabs. The sun, the moon, and Canopus, the brightest star in the southern sky. Okay, so Canopus is the brightest star in the southern sky. It's the second brightest star available to us. It's also aligned to the winds. In fact, the corners are named after the winds. Okay, the corners are actually named for the winds. The sides are named for the winds. So it is astronomical and meteorological phenomena that were intimately connected in Arab folklore. So the Kaaba unified the cosmos of celestial bodies, the winds, the rains, and the directions, and this way would not have been strange to the pre-Islamic Arabs. So the Kaaba is like an old, it's like a hinge, understand? So now you've got these very strong pagan connections, just like I showed you with Stonehenge, with Göbekli Tepe, and even with that site in Jordan that I showed last week. Actually, let me just bring this up. I'm on slide number, oh bugger. I just want to find that site in Jordan in case I missed it. Let me put this here so you guys can see this. I just want to find that location in Jordan. Here we go. I think I showed you guys this last week. You'll see here, this is in Jordan. This is engraved idols, okay? This is a synonym. These are engraved idols. Look here, pillar statues, engraved idols. This is 9,000 years old. It's right here next to Petra. And just south across the border is that other place, which has 50 sites of these pillars in Arabia that I mentioned before. Okay? So graven idols and pillar statues from the Neolithic period. This is 9,000 years old. Okay, so let me continue. I'll run on here. Okay, so let me finish. Okay, we're nearly at the end. Any comments, Adam, before we're nearly done?
No, no, we are going good, man. We are going good. Praise Lord.
Okay, radio. So Atar is the gender fluid god. Okay, yeah. So Atar, Ishtar, Semitic deity whose role, name, and gender varied by culture. He was male or female, but always identified with the planet Venus, and in pre-Islamic Southern Arabia was worshipped as a god of war. Right. So again, you've got this very strong influence of the god of war, the god of jihad. Alat, according to recent study, is believed to have been introduced into Arabia from Syria and was the moon goddess of northern Arabia. We know it was the main god of Nabatea, of Petra. We've also had the story that Hubal was introduced from the same location, from Syria, right? We mentioned that earlier, different episode, that Hubal came the same. So it's possible, it is a possibility that Hubal and Alat are the same god. They're just different genders. Or somehow the story got mixed up. If correct, she corresponds to the moon deity of South Arabia, Al Makkah. Now we know. So don't forget, Muhammad, we learned from Islamic sources, he and Khadija worshipped Allah. At night, they would pray to Allah. And now we see here, Allah is Al Makkah, the moon god of Arabia. Al Makkah is Sin. Al Makkah is Baal. So Al Makkah is the moon god of Babylon, who is Shin, or Sin. Right? So now we see Allah and Al Makkah are the very same god. So Muhammad would have been a Sabaean, a moon god worshipper. Notice he's also called Sin. Okay, Alat happens to be female, and Sin is male. Al Makkah is male. The difference is the gender. So they would gender swap the gods sometimes. This is Jack Finnegan, the Archaeology of World Religions. Arabia shared the gods of Mesopotamia, being so close to Babylon, except the genders and the symbols of these deities were later swapped around. The sun god Shamash became the sun goddess, and in southern Arabia, Ishtar became the male god Atar. It's all the same deity, just renamed. Okay, so let's wind down, guys. So the temple was built. So now they speak of this temple built by Muqarrib, okay? One who does, Qarib, okay? Qaribal, one who worships. So this is like, just like if Abd al something, Abd al Malik, Muqarrib is basically means exactly the same thing. In fact, Abd al Malik replaced Muqarrib. Muqarrib comes from Yemen, and it was Arabized and became Abd al-Malik. They changed it. So a priest king. So notice they had priest kings. Muhammad was a priest king, and in fact, they are warrior priest kings. And this temple was dedicated to Al-Makkah. Al-Makkah, or Al-Makkah, was the moon god, corresponding to Sin in Mesopotamia. So just more confirmation that Sin and Al-Makkah are the same god. And also known to the Hadramautians as Sin. So all across Yemen, he was known as Sin. His consort was the sun. His wife was the sun. Shams, the same as Shamash in Mesopotamia. Their son was Atar, the planet Venus. And he corresponded to the Babylonian Ishtar. Excellent. That's from the Archaeology of World Religions. So now we can see, okay? So this is from a thesis submitted by this guy. He's a Muslim, okay? A stylistic and comparative study of unpublished pre-Islamic stone sculptures. So the religion of ancient South Arabia was an astronomical religion. We just mentioned the Kaaba is a henge, but it has astronomical and meteorological, weather and star worship, astrology, based on the worship of gods personified by heavenly bodies, similar to that of the northern Semitic Arab people. These gods can be incorporated into one triad composed of the planet Venus, the moon god, and the sun goddess. At the head of the pantheon stood Atar, the god identified with the planet Venus, who was accorded particular veneration, and to whom most of the shrines in South Arabia were dedicated. So some of the new gods would come and supplant the old gods. They would change. Okay, his name appears in hundreds of inscriptions and is also compounded to the names of many individuals. The moon god was known in South Arabia by different names, and Anbay, and Al-Makkah to the Sabaeans. He was known as Wad to the Manaeans, and Sin to the Hadramautis, also to the Babylonians. So there we go. Right, the third of the triad is the sun goddess. So hopefully this is just additional confirmation. Okay, strong additional confirmation of what I've been saying. Muhammad's sons, he had a son called Abdalat and Abd Manaf. Okay, so his two sons by Khadija were named Abd al Uzza and Abd Manaf. Manaf is a god. We've mentioned him earlier. He had Manat and Manaf, the star god, and Abd al Uzza, the great one. Okay, so he and his wife, Hisham replied that is a lie. The names are Abd al Uzza and Abd Manaf. Okay, so he had sons named after pagan deities. Okay, so this is the case. And Muhammad had pagan family. Hashim ibn Abd Manaf was the great great grandfather of Muhammad. Abd Manaf, again, the star god, Attar. We've just seen him, Ishtar, Attar. Okay, Hashim was the son of Abd Manaf. Interesting. So you had Abd Manaf and Abd Manaf. They were both named after the god that they prayed to. We just saw at one time the star god was the great god of Arabia. And here you've got confirmation that, so prior to that, you had the star god, and then, of course, came the moon god who replaced them. Okay, don't forget we said the Kinda invaded, and so on, and other groups invaded, and you had again we mentioned Nabonidus came from the north, from Babylon, from the east and down south, and he introduced from the north. He introduced Sin, the Babylonian god, and he was the same god was introduced from the south by the Yemenis. So suddenly now you had new gods arriving. Abdul Muttalib was the first Meccan to introduce the practice of dyeing hair with henna to his fellow tribespeople after a visit to Yemen. Okay, so even his grandfather went to Yemen and his father picked up traditions and practices from Yemen. Encyclopedia of Islam, volume 9, page 383. And notice the horns of the bull. We saw that, the crown earlier, the horns of the bull on the Kaaba in this picture. Why would the artist have the bull's horns on the Kaaba? Any comment, Adam, before I go on?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, it's unbelievable that they like I don't know how you pick up these kind of things. Like somehow I cannot pick up these kind of things. It's the way they actually picked up the black curtain of the Kaaba, and it looks exactly like that. And it's unbelievable that these people are giving so many references to this, yet they do not know what they're doing.
Yeah, no, agreed. I fully agree. So Manaf was one of the greatest deities of Mecca. It's the deity of ancient Arabia, known as the Exalted. Okay, don't forget Waraka ibn Naufal. This is the root of Naufal. Okay, describing Atar Venus at its zenith. So Waraka ibn Naufal basically it's a name to pagans. Both his name and surname are pagan. They call him a Jew that became a Christian, whatever. His name's a pagan. His father was pagan. It's an epithet of the sun. So here we have now Manaf, the sun. Okay, excellent. So then you have Abmanaf, okay, and then you have Kamar the moon. So his mother had one of the four sons of Qusay, Abmanaf, and he was also surnamed Kamar the moon. So these names were all over the place, okay. And then I'll mention, okay, I've already covered this. We've covered that. I'm going to skip this. I'm going to cover that. Sorry, I just okay, skipped that. I'm going to skip that. Skip this, and let's talk about briefly. Finally, now some more archaeology. The Moon Temple of Shin in Arabia. Okay, this is from this paper, Reports of the Research Committee, the Society of Antiquaries of London. The Tombs and Moon Temple of Khurayda or Hadramaut, Yemen. The Moon Temples of Yemen, let's call it that. Synopsis: the Moon Temple, the first to be excavated in Arabia, blah, 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 blah. Okay, it may form part of the Haram area. So the Haram, so the concept of the Haram, okay, of Mecca or the temple in Jerusalem, this actually goes back to the Yemenis. They called their holy spaces also Haram. Okay, so that word comes from them. Okay, and there were stumps of stone pillars. Okay, very interesting, stone pillars. Okay, and the orientation of the building follows the Mesopotamian practice, the Babylonian practice of setting the corners to the four cardinal points, just like when we see the Kaaba does that. I wonder. Probably no connection whatsoever that the Kaaba is arranged north, south, east, west, just like the Mesopotamian pagans did. Okay, fantastic. The main facade looks south and west. Okay, gradio. Okay, and there are many inscriptions and 9 graffiti. All except one, perhaps two, are Sabaean or in the Hadramautic dialect. Okay, and in 22 of these inscriptions that were found at this particular temple alone, the dedication to Shin, the Babylonian god Sin, the Babylonian god, moon god Sin, is preserved. And he's called different names. The deities Hal and Al Makkah are also named. It's the same deity. He's called Hal and Al Makkah, different groups, because different groups would go and make pilgrimage here. And of course, they wanted to represent all of these groups, just like they did in the Kaaba. Now they speak here of disintegrated mud brick, but they found something that clinched the evidence, which was further supported by scarce shards and masonry fragments, some finely dressed, one of which bore the letters Shin, was Sin. So, in other words, there was proof eventually that this was a temple to Sin, and we know that the main god of Yemen was Al Makkah. And of course, in this case, they called him Sin. So, in other words, Sin was Al Makkah is Sin. This is confirmed by the archaeology. And they mentioned here an incomplete Shin invocation. Another one was found, which is archaic, and it invokes the moon god under the Sabaean name Al Makkah. So that confirms it. Yeah, Allah Shin. I know. Marion Grand Bruheim says by Allah Shin. I know. I've wondered about that myself because the correct is not sin, it's Shin. Shin, right? So they keep talking about Allah Shin. So I keep wondering about that. Is that Allah Shin? I mean, good grief. Okay. So now notice they say here the Moon Temple, okay, assessment of the architectural influences in the Moon Temple is not easy because it assimilates lots of foreign models. In other words, every time they go somewhere, every time someone comes there, they steal an idea, they stick it into the temple. They were constantly changing its style to match those of the countries around them. They were copying from other cultures constantly. They were plagiarizing and stealing from other cultures, all the cool stuff. They were taking and using it all the time. But notice the orientation as well as its deity are rooted in Babylon. So they tell us the way it's designed. And of course, the Kaaba is rooted exactly the wall. It's rotated, facing exactly the same way. And so let's finish off. C.S. Kuhn, Trade Links and War Gods. The surface message is clear. The kingdoms of southern Arabia, like that of the Nabateans, were in contact with the entire ancient world, Rome to India, even beyond. We know they went as far as China. They are objects of Roman, Greek, Egyptian, Mesopotamian, and Indian manufacture. Okay, they are Syrian and Byzantine. They are Grecian columns. They're Greek columns, and the names of gods are monotonously repeated. This indicates a devotion to religion and a belief in divinity. Right, from the Hadramaut, from Yemen, from Mecca, Medina, and the ports of the Eastern Mediterranean, they went everywhere. It was the principal and only route by which goods from India were transshipped and carried over land. They were on the major trade routes. We discussed in the beginning, the trade routes was how the religion spread, how ideas spread, how new things came through the trade route. Okay, let's continue. There are two Sabaean periods. The earlier called the Mukarrab period, which the king bore the title Mukarrab, which indicated the primarily priestly office, and a later, which was called the Malik, the common Semitic word for king. That's interesting. See, Malik replaced Mukarrab. Then you have the Abdal Malik. Now, if you are the Abdal Malik, if you are the king, who are you servant of? Who are you slave of? Well, you're the slave of God. And Malik also means Molech. Hubal, Baal. Okay. The most important Mukarrab of Saba was Kariba Ilu, the priest of the god. Okay. So you're a political priest. It's a political, religious, war-based role. Thank you, Fatih. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So it's a political role, but also, and of course, notice, are we talking about now? Let's continue. So let's finish here. Okay, now I know that Abraha is supposed to have gone to, now, even according to Islamic sources, even according to Qurtubi, for instance, supposedly Muhammad was born in 570. This is the year of the elephant. This is when Abraha went north to attack Mecca with the elephants, and the elephant was called Mahmud. And this elephant, Mahmud, kneeled down and refused to go into Mecca because Mahmud is just a nickname for Muhammad. It's a short version. It's a nickname for Muhammad. Mahmud, Muhammad, MHMD, same letters. Okay, so Mahmud, Muhammad, Mahmud. It's the same root. So the elephant was called Mahmud. Okay, so the elephant is called Muhammad, and this elephant called Muhammad, refused to attack Mecca. Very, very convenient. But I want to note maybe this idea is stolen from an historical event that happened very early, around the first century, just before the beginning of the first century AD. In 24 BC, 24 before Christ, Aelius Gallus, he was the Roman governor of Egypt. He led an expedition to conquer the whole section. This is Yemen, okay, known to the Romans as Arabia Felix. Now, notice he took one of the world's most famous historians of the day, a man called Strabo, who was his friend. He took Strabo, the historian, with him. They went all the way down the coast. They never heard of Mecca. They never stopped at Mecca. They never mentioned Mecca. They didn't bother to go to Mecca, the world's oldest town, the world's oldest city. They went straight to Yemen. But the Romans never got there. Well, Abraha never got to Mecca. Somewhere in the sands near Najran, the majority of them died of disease. Well, according to most of the Islamic literature, actually, they weren't killed by birds with stones. Technically, they died of disease, because you can also translate this idea of birds killing you with stones, can also be translated as disease. And those who survived turned back. So this may well be the source of the myth about Abraha. Okay, and even according to Qurtubi, Abraha possibly went before the birth of Muhammad's father. So that would have been 40 years prior to the birth of Muhammad, which was prior to the birth of Muhammad's father. Okay, so notice, and about 270 AD, the Aksumite Ethiopians conquered Arabia and ruled it. They were Christians and they set up bishops and bishoprics. Okay, and the Aksumites themselves were descendants of earlier immigrants from Yemen who had carried Semitic civilization to Ethiopia and they became Christianized. So let's look at the 100 moon god attributes, which are Allah. Okay, the 100 attributes of the moon god. Yet Kabir, thus the prototype of the modern Zawiyan at Sheikh or Faki existed in pre-Islamic Sabah. So in the Sabaean kingdom of Yemen, they had sheikhs, they had Fakis. These are mujtahids, these are experts of the law. These are sheikhs who make fatwa. So this concept existed. This was taken from Yemen and just incorporated by Muhammad. You have inscriptions that consist largely of the names of gods, of which over 100 are known. Many of them are attribute names such as Wad, love, Sadiq, truth, and Rahman, the compassionate. So the Yemenis had Najran very close by, and of course you had the Ethiopians who were the earliest Christian civilization, even before Armenia. They conquered Yemen and they made it Christian at the time before it was reconquered by the Muslims. And don't forget, Rahman, it says here, okay, passed into Islamic terminology. So the Ethiopian Christians brought Rahman as Christians. It was adopted by the pagans and then it was adopted by Islam. So it tells us here that it comes from paganism, but it comes through paganism by way of Christianity. Yet the god of the names, Wad, the Katabanians, Amma, and of the Habramis, Sin, and of the Sabaeans, El Makkah, all of them were the moon. So we have further confirmation of this. And Quran 38:5, maketh ye the gods one Allah. Lo, that is an astounding thing. And their leaders went about and said, leave him, leave Muhammad, and cling steadfastly to your gods. He has a hidden objective, he has a hidden agenda in this. We have never heard of this, even in Christianity, the latest religion. This is clearly a newly fabricated matter. So the Quran tells us in 38:5 to 38:7 that Muhammad was fabricating. He was simply taking all the gods, all of their attributes, and rolling it into one God called Allah. So, according to this scholar, needless to say, the multiplication of God names does not imply an extensive polytheism. So, having 100 names of God doesn't mean there was 100 gods. 360 gods in the Kaaba doesn't mean there were 360 gods. It could have been 5 gods, 10 gods, 2 gods. It just means that each group would take a quality of the God that they liked and they would call it. For instance, you go walk down the street. You're in Chicago, walk down the street, you see the Church of the Redeemer. Then you see the Church of the Holy Shepherd. You see the Church of the Cross. You see the Light of the Shepherd. Are those 4 separate religions? No, it's Christianity. It's just the church happens to just be named that. It doesn't mean it's 4 different religions. It's all Christianity. They just happen to be using a name that they like. And that's effectively what happened in the Kaaba. So this does not imply an extensive polytheism. All of the names, all of the gods have been reduced to 3, the sun, the moon, and the Venus star. These are respectively represented as a disk, a crescent, and a star. Each of these 3 had many functions and attributes, each with a name. So all of the functions and attributes of the gods each had a name. And the reduction of these to 3 is only exceeded by the Islamic heaping of all attribute names on a single divinity. So even according to the early scholarship, all of these things, all of these ideas, these names, these attributes were just lumped and we have Allah now. Although there were but 3 gods, each might be worshipped in different aspects under different names. Hopefully that is clear. Okay? All right, so who is Abu Hatim and what is he? Yeah, Quran, Andrew Martin, yes, Quran 38:5 does show the syncretism. Adam, any comment from you?
No, brother, absolutely not right now. We have already shown these information in the past as well, so it's just an connection of all of them.
Yeah, I just want to make sure where I am, so I'm nearly done. Yes, we were nearly done. I should be fantastic. So let's finish up here. So, okay, I just want to say, look, obviously I use Wikipedia. It's very convenient, but we must also be aware Wikipedia is edited. Muslims edit the Wikipedia entries, and they can be very, very clever about it. I must admit, it's really, really good. It's propaganda, but it's really good propaganda. Okay, be very careful when you look
Cool.
into Wikipedia. It's very useful, man. Wikipedia can be brilliant, can save you a lot of time, but there's also a lot of nonsense. Just be very cautious. Okay. So in the lunar calendar entry there, they were fudging some stuff. So the moon plays a significant role in Islam because of the use of a lunar Islamic calendar to determine the rate of Ramadan. to determine the date of Ramadan. The crescent moon, known as Hilal, defines the start and end of Islamic months as it did for the Babylonian calendar. So looks like in Babylon they also had a month called Ramadan, and it looks like they also had the crescent moon called Hilal. It was a moon god, literally a moon god. So Ramadan seems to also have been taken from the Babylonian pagans. So there you go, Babylonian moon god worship once again. These are the phases of the moon. This is the young moon, the Hilal. This is Hilal. Okay, this is the full moon known as Badr, the Battle of Badr, and this is Kamar. This is Kamar. See, these are different phases of the moon. The god and Alillah is a phase of the moon god. So the god Illah was originally a phase of the moon god. So just like Hilal was one of its phases, Badr was one of its phases, Al-Qamar was one of its phases, Illah was originally a phase of the moon god, one of the 12 phases of the moon. In early Arabian history, the name became a general term for God. So one of the phases of the moon became eventually a general term for God in Arabic. So understand, similarly, under Muhammad, the relatively anonymous Illah became Al-Illah, the God, or Allah, the Supreme Being. Of course, we've seen the Yemenis, who heavily influenced Muhammad, worship the moon god La, and La could have been expanded into the God, the La. That could also be where Allah comes from. Okay, let us continue and finish. So we now know that the influence of the late classical world on the Sabaean kingdom cannot be overemphasized. The Greeks, the Byzantines, must have been imported to the Sabaean state to make the statues and carve stone. This is why, again, Alfonso would state, oh, but those were Greek and no, no, no. They brought these people to their kingdoms to carve for them. They were the experts. That's why you have these Greek-looking statues. In earlier periods, the Egyptian Mesopotamian influence was equally important. The South Arabian cities were commercial metropoles of a cosmopolitan character, grafted on simpler agricultural state. So they had lots of influences from the Western world at that time, at least the pagan West. When I say West, I don't mean America today, right? In which imported goods and styles were probably important. Let's look at the old as the new, the Imamate of Yemen, a modern priestly kingdom. So these ideas can last for centuries, for thousands of years. The transition from moon, sun, and Venus and worship, okay, the transition from moon, sun, and Venus worship to Islam and from Sabaean speech and writing to Arabic was not a drastic and a complete change, as the Yemenites themselves may imagine. Although the trade upon which blah, blah, blah. So it wasn't a huge change for them. The culture is actually very, very similar to how it was 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. The Imam himself was the successor of a long line of holy ancestors. He calls himself by the title Amir al-Mu'minin. Well, that looks like a pagan title from Yemen, Commander of the Faithful, which is equivalent to Caliph. So Caliph, the Islamic Caliph, originally takes its title from the Amir al-Mu'minin, the believers, which looks to be a Yemeni title, which was a pagan title. And the modern Yemenite system may without difficulty be shown to parallel the social organization of the Sabaeans. So modern Yemen is very much similar to ancient pagan Sabaeanism in its culture. Okay, so one would not expect it to be identical. Modern Yemen is the composite remnant of many earlier states adapted by a shift in religion and by northern influences. But those influences, the original Sabaean cultural influence, still remains. So, sin. The symbol was the crescent moon, and the cult of the moon god was the most popular religion throughout ancient Mesopotamia. You had Shin, Shin, Shin. We know this. Sin is a name, Sumerian in origin, which had been borrowed by the Semites. Okay, right. Muhammad was a Sabi, and we'll finish here so soon. It was said that the Sabians of Haran, that they used to make a yearly pilgrimage to the pyramids of Egypt. So these Sabians of Haran, now we're talking about the Mandaeans. They're known as Mandaeans today. They are Gnostics. They hate Jesus. They revere John the Baptist, and their god is Enoch. Enoch of the proto-canonical deuterocanonical book of Enoch, right? That's the Sabians. And of course, Maimonides says the Sabians are remnants of the ancient Egyptian priests who practice hieroglyphic magic, system of language encoding that can engineer consciousness. You know, earth, air, fire, water. Well, the Islamic letters are also earth, air, fire, water, sun, and moon characters. Why? Because it's designed to use magic. Harf, huruf, okay, akhruf. Let's look at the akhruf. It does mean word. It does mean a reading. It does mean a dialect. It also means onomatomancy, a magical practice based on the occult properties of the letters of the alphabet, the Arabic alphabet, and of the divine and angelic names which they form. So the ahruf actually means occult magic. Okay, yes, it does mean letter. It does mean a Quranic reading. The most important meaning is the science of the ahruf, which is just the plural of harf, huruf, ahruf. It is a magical practice. That's why the characters have sun and moon, earth, air, fire, and water. So this is all about the occultism. Thoth of ancient
And
Egypt was a moon deity. Yeah.
by the way, just to add over here, when Muhammad said that I received Quran in sab'a ahruf, means seven ahruf, seven
Hmm.
harf, seven letters supposedly. Nobody knows what those seven letters are. No one. They are always searching what it is, what is this means. Muslim scholars are fighting with each other on what does that means. They do not agree on that, and that is why this is written in Encyclopedia of Islam. What you're showing, that they are magic. They just can't define it. So they are
Well,
magic in
they
reality.
can't tell you. I think they know exactly what it means. They obviously can't say it. They're fighting just to confuse people, but they know for a fact what it is. They know what
Hmm.
it is. They just can't. Just like they know that Yasin is the Babylonian god Sin, but they go, "Wow, we don't know. Nobody knows." They know for a fact it's the moon god Sin. So yeah, so now you've got again, there's so many moon deities. Okay, there were many moon deities in Egypt as well. Thoth is Hermes, and of course you have the father of Gnosticism, which is effectively the father of Satanism. And now let's go to Da'if Bukhari, Volume 1, Book 7, Hadith 340. She asked where, they said, take us to Allah's messenger. She said, do you mean the man who is called the Sabi with the new religion? They replied, yes, the same person. So come along. They brought her to the prophet who was known as a Sabi, the Sabians, the Sabis. These now, for instance, Muhammad might have been a moon worshipper, and then he could have become a Gnostic. Okay, so because both of these influences are part of Islam today, both influences, Gnostic influences, these Egyptian Gnostic influences, and the post-Christian Gnostic influences, as well as the pagan moon influences. So Muhammad might have gone from, remember, he quit worshipping the pagan moon god. Okay, he supposedly left Al Uzza. He left the worship of Al Uzza. He left the worship of Al Makkah, and he then switched to the new religion. He went to the religion, the religion of Abraham, the earliest known religion. Okay, he went to the earliest religion, and according to this, he's called the Sabi. He became a Sabian. Okay, so he stopped being a Sabaean worshipper, a moon god worshipper, the Sabaeans, and he went to join the Sabians. Okay, who were the Gnostics. They hate Jesus, they revere John the Baptist, and they follow Enoch. And she said, a strange thing. Two men met me and took me to the man who is called the Sabi. So Muhammad is called a Sabi. Okay, let's continue. Now, the word Saba'a means the one who has deserted his old religion and embraced a new religion. Okay, okay, fine. And the Sabis are a sect of the people of scripture who recite the book of Psalms. Now, we know that the book of Psalms is part of the Sabaean, the Mandaean Gnostic religion, but of course, they're not Christians. They're not Christians. They were called the people of the book, but they're not Christians. Let's continue. The Quran provides the Sabaeans, with a religious status comparable to that of the Jews and Christians. Fascinating. Okay, for some of them came believers. So now, but they're not Christians, they're Gnostics. Okay, why is Allah never defined in the Quran? We'll finish up soon. Why did Muhammad assume that the pagan Arabs already knew who Allah was? Okay, Muhammad is raised in the religion of the moon god, Allah. Okay, but he went one step further than the fellow Arabs, the pagans. While they believed that Allah, the moon god, was the greatest of all gods and the supreme deity, Muhammad decided Allah was not only the greatest god, but the only god. He said, look, you already believe the moon god is Allah, the greatest of all gods. All I want you to do is accept the idea that he's the only god. He rolled them all into one god. I'm not taking away the Allah you already worship. I'm only taking away his wife and daughters and all the other gods. In fact, he just rolled them all into the names. Because don't forget, Allah doesn't have 99 names. Allah has like 500 names. Every list of 99 names you look at is a personalized name by that scholar. So when you read this list, Allah has hundreds of names. This is seen from the fact that the first point of the Muslim creed is not Allah is great, but Allah is the greatest, which is very odd. It's the greatest among the gods. So why would Allah be the greatest, except in a polytheistic context? Let's go to Al-Kindi, one of the earliest Christian apologists against Islam. He pointed out that Islam and its God Allah did not come from the Bible, but from the paganism of the Sabaeans of Yemen. They did not worship the God of the Bible, but the moon god. So even Al-Kindi mentioned that this is a Yemeni moon god. Allah is a Yemeni moon god. And his daughters Al-Uzza, Allat, and Manat. Dr. Newman concludes his study of the early Christian Muslim debates by stating Islam proved itself to be a separate and antagonistic religion which had sprung up from idolatry. Islamic scholar Caesar Farah concluded there's no reason to accept the idea that Allah passed to the Muslims from the Christians and the Jews. City of the Moon. Okay, let's continue. So yeah, there we go.
We have the city of the moon, brother. There is a suggestion for you by Yatur Siddiqui. He's saying, Brother Lloyd, please go grab a cup of coffee. You are rocking. Man, if he's gonna go and grab the cup of coffee, who will gonna teach it here?
Yeah, I know. And besides, Adam wants me to finish tonight. I can't do another part six. Okay, I gotta finish. I gotta finish.
It's already 5 parts, man. Thank you so very much, Yatur, for your super chat and your support.
Yeah. So, any comments from you, Adam? Because we're nearly done. I am. Let me have a look here. Let me just look where I am. Yeah. So we have one, two. I have like 3 or 4 slides left. Like 4 slides left. Any
Perfect.
comments from you, Adam?
No, brother, you are rocking already. As the people are saying, you are rocking.
So yeah, hopefully all of this information, I mean, this overwhelming amount of information verified from many different sources, all points in the same direction. They all come to the very same conclusion, right? So hopefully this makes the case. I know I could have done it maybe with less slides, but there's just so much that proves it. So this is Ur. This is supposedly where Abraham came from. I don't believe this is the case. Okay, I believe Abraham came from Haran up north, but whatever. We'll just leave that for now. So this is Ur, the city of the moon. Haran is also called the city of the moon. Haran in Turkey, next to Göbekli Tepe, also called the city of the moon. They're both called this. Ur lives, okay, so the god of Ur lives in the temple, okay? It was the house of Sin. So Sin was a god here because Sin was the god of Mesopotamia. There's no differentiation. Back then, there was no differentiation between the male moon god and the moon. It was effectively that the moon was a deity. Later on, you had the idea that the moon was the vehicle of the deity. The deity perched on the moon, like a bird sitting on a perch. It was like his stool, his throne, okay? That's why the moon has light. Allah's throne has light. Remember, Allah's light is the nur, the moonlight. Allah's light is the moonlight. Muhammad's light is the moonlight, because Muhammad worshipped the moon god. Allah is a moon god. Sumerians used the lunar calendar with 360 days. Okay, I think that's the same as the Islamic calendar. The moon god referred to as a bull. Okay, and the crescent is horizontal in their the higher north you go. So when you are lower down, the moon's like this, the crescent's like this, and as you go higher north, the moon turns that way. Okay, let's continue. So Charles Russell Coulter and Patricia Turner consider that Allah's name may be derived from a pre-Islamic god called Ilia, similar to El Ilah, Jehovah. They considered some of his characteristics based on lunar deities like Al-Makka, Kal, Shakir, Wad, and Warak. The same names come up over and over. In pre-Islamic Arabia, including in Mecca, Allah was considered deity, the creator or supreme deity in polytheistic pantheon. Allah from Arabic al-Illah, meaning the God, was a title, not a name. Wellhausen states that Allah was known from Jewish and Christian sources and was known to the pagan Arabs as the supreme God. So they obviously stole him, as I showed, Rahman, from the Jews and Christians. The worship of sacred stones was one of the most important practices of the Arabs. Cult images of a deity were most often an unworked stone block. We've seen those before in the very early episodes. The most common name for these stone blocks was derived from the Semitic nisb, meaning to be stood upright. So the Hanifan, okay, meaning that's what they use upright. They're talking about upright. So they mistranslate Hanifan, which means pagan or heathen. Technically, it means heretic, okay? In the context that they use the word Hanifan, the Christians and Jews use it as heretics, okay? But they use it as upright, and that's where they mistranslate deliberately the term Hanifan. But other names are used, such as Nabatean Masgida, place of prostration, and the Arabic object of circumambulation. So don't forget, this was a practice. This circumambulation was a pagan practice going way back, and the term often occurs in pre-Islamic poetry. This 9,000-year-old shrine in Jordan, we've mentioned this before. Jebel al-Kashabiyah, French and Jordanian archaeologists made a unique discovery that sheds light on daily life and belief in prehistoric Levant, graven idols and stone pillars. This is very close to Petra, very, very close to Petra, and very close to the same stone pillars that we discovered earlier in Arabia. Okay, now also, Canopus, back to the moon god Canopus, also known as Lunus, the moon from Luna, an Egyptian deity known as Hans Lunus, and also has a hawk head as well as a crescent and a disc, comes from Egypt. Lustration, notice the Egyptians used to worship this moon god and they would lustrate themselves, meaning a religious rite practiced by the ancients consisted in washing the hands and sometimes the whole body. So this washing idea comes from Egypt. It's a symbol of the internal purification of the heart. It's a ceremony preparatory to initiation in the ancient mysteries while they washed themselves because they were occult practitioners of magic. Notice Muhammad had his body cut open, his heart removed, and they removed the sin from his heart because these guys would have a symbolic internal purification. Muhammad was physically cleansed, supposedly went one better. Now we have the southern star Canopus. The southern star Canopus was part of the temple of Hans, the Egyptian temple. Okay, so understand you had Osiris, Hans, and Min. This is interesting that Min, the Mukmin, the heretics again, and therefore they also mention the stars Canopus, and the horns and the disc mark a rising star. So just there are some connections I've mentioned in the past that a lot of this worship of these pagan gods from Babylon and so on seem to a large degree to originate in Egypt. Okay, and so a lot of this comes from Egypt. That's a section I did not go to. Notice here the Kaaba, the setting point of the three stars of the handle of the plow. So the Kaaba is oriented astronomically as well, astrologically. Then you have summer, the sunrise. This wall is pointed towards. They also point to the four winds. Okay, they're also aligned to the four winds. Summer, the sunrise, the winter sunset, and the rising point of Canopus. The alignments of the Kaaba. Okay, so you have the first wind of the Sabah, which is the easterly of the Kaaba facing the wall. Okay, so understand this is the Sabah side, the Sabah. Interesting. So all of them have names: the Janub, the Shamal, okay, the Dabur. So you've got these names, all may have meteorological and astrological meanings. So this is like a megalith. It's like one of these old temples. Okay, and yeah, so basically we're going to finish here. Okay, last slide or two. Yemeni people were a mixture of Jewish and Christians, together with a mixture of adherents of indigenous beliefs. So pagans plus Jews plus Christians. It led to this whole mishmash, this whole heretical mishmash. Okay, so the Axumites dominated Yemen. They threatened to control the area around Mecca and Medina. And so the Himyarites called the Persian Empire for help, which led to the absorption of Yemen into Persia. And then Yemen came to be governed by the Umayyad Caliphate in Damascus and afterwards by the Abbasid Caliphate. So there's a whole mixture of things. And all of this was rolled into Islam. And author Jean Duress had written in the secret books of the Egyptian Gnostics. Seth is known in Islam. Okay, Seth from, of course, the book of Seth. Seth is the father of Enoch, and usually assimilated to Agathodaimon, who's one of the great figures of Hermetic literature. Hermeticism ultimately leads to, let's just call it Gnosticism and paganism, and sorry, Satanism. The prophetic prestige with which the Gnostics endowed him he still possesses, especially in the tradition of various Shiite groups, chiefly in Mesopotamia, in Haran. The Muslims went to Haran, right? And of course, they took over the great magical temple and they made it a mosque. And of course, this entire idea we just mentioned earlier, this Hermetic literature, they took to Spain with them. And the Sufis absorbed all this, and that became the foundation of the magical practice, the occult magical practice in Islam. And in these particular doctrines, the survival of Gnostic themes is ubiquitous and seems immense. So, in other words, the Shias and the Sufis, these Muslim groups have retained these Gnostic, pagan, magical, occult practices within Islam.
Inshallah.
And I will finish here. So the next step would be for us. So I'll just finish. Final slide. Any comment, Adam, before I finish the very final slide?
Yeah, there is a question over here, but I'm gonna say to Saint Louis the ninth. He's talking about Hanifan and Hanif. I think, brother, I think in part three we have properly
Yes.
explained this and we have shown the
Mm.
Quranic verses and everything. So, brother Saint Louis, you need to go watch part three, and you will know that in detail. There are 12 verses of Quran which talks about Abraham to be Hanifan. And yes, Abraham was Hanifa, and before the Lord God called him out. So that's for you to go watch part 3 as well again, and it will give you all that
Yeah, he
information. There is a
worshipped. Yeah, sorry,
yes,
go on.
brother,
Sorry.
please.
No, he worshipped upright pillars. So now they're stating he was upright. No, he worshipped upright pillars. And in the Bible, he's told that's a sin. You must stop doing that because God hates those pillars. Go on, Adam.
Absolutely, absolutely, brother. By the way, there is a guy named Muslim. He said, "Do not lie about Allah, Adam Seeker. Diced or else painful punishment awaits you in the hereafter." So, brother Muslim, if anything that we have shown so far you can prove any of that wrong, as you claimed, you are more than welcome to come up and do not divert from the topic. Prove us wrong. The link is in the live stream for you. Uh, Brother Lloyd, I think there is a question for you. Here you go from Saint Louis the Ninth once again.
I need to steal from pre. Um, that's a good question. I mean, look, they're trying to create their own reality. They reinterpret reality. They do revisionism. They're not. Don't forget, Satan doesn't create. Satan distorts. Right? Satan doesn't create anything new. Satan just distorts what God already created. So they are trying to create their own reality to defy God, and therefore they have to now rearrange and distort what already exists. Um, yeah, it's a myth. They were creating a myth. I mean, Satanism, paganism, it's all myths. I mean, not to say that Satan's are real. Obviously, we believe that Satan is real. At least there's, but they're creating their own creation myth. They're creating their own stories about the world. They are distorting the truth. They are denying the logos. These people are not about following logos. They're about following their will, right? Um, yeah, look, I don't know if I answered the question very well,
I
but
think you
Muhammad also
did. I
had to
think you
try to
did.
come up
Like,
with something original because he was accused of plagiarism. He was many times accused. Yeah, Adam.
yeah, I said you actually right answered perfectly, because as a devil, you will not be able to, and Muhammad, we believe him to be a perfect devil. You cannot give something new because you do not have anything new. You have to plagiarize, you have to take and distort. And by the way, Bible is very clear as well. uh, when Satan tried to tempt our Lord Jesus Christ, we see that he took verses out of context, and every time he did that and distorted the word of God, Jesus rebuked him with the clear answer from the Bible. So it tells us that Satan will always take the verses of the Bible and it will always distort that. All these things which are written in the Bible, which have been done by our Lord, is not something to just write it down. It is something for us to know that this is going to happen. This has been happening. So it's already there. It shows how divinely this book Bible is written. By the way, a word of appreciation, brother, from Kim. Thank you, Lord, for raising up all these knowledge seeker, blessed to have gained much understanding. Thank you so very much for this uh, beautiful appreciation on the stream. And all of this work has been done by our brother Lloyd. Lloyd is awesome when it comes to these kind of research. Thank you so very much. Yes, brother. Before
Oh, this
you read
is
the last slide, I will ask each and every brothers and sisters who are in the live chat, if you have a question, now is the time to put it, because after this end, we will stay here for a little longer for the answers. And please get ready for your questions, brother Lloyd.
all right. Yeah. So let's finish. Thanks. So yeah. Sorry. So I didn't finish the answering the question very well, but yeah. Hopefully that gives you something to work with. Yeah. And thanks, Adam. So final slide. So nearly done. Um, such passages. So okay. My well-detailed practice of religion. So blah blah blah. Okay. So basically, people speak about Nabatea, they speak about Petra as being this the root source of where Muhammad lived and where the Quran is describing, and they also speak of a couple of things. There's dates and olives in Petra, and you can't get that in Mecca. Olives is apparently a special thing because olives would grow in only limited places. Well, olives also happen to grow in Yemen, and I showed you previously that the geography of Yemen, there's very lush areas in Yemen, and Yemen, okay, the areas of like Makaraba, which we showed was Mahabisha. This would also satisfy those claims that fit Yemen, sorry, that fit Nabatea, fit Petra, that would also fit places in Yemen. Okay, so that could also be a candidate for a lot of this. And it's not to say that Islam developed in just one place or one time, because everyone often there's a very narrow focus on the 6th or 7th century. Islam clearly took hundreds, maybe 1,000 years to develop. We need to look wider in time as well as wider in geography. It's not just one source. And then, of course, Reasoned Answers said also, you mentioned something. Oh, Muhammad also wanted to make a religion that was such a plagiarism because he wanted to appeal to everybody. He wanted a universal religion, right? He wanted to appeal to Jews, to Christians, to pagans, to everybody. So he stuck a little bit of everything into his religion to just appeal to everyone. So revisionists must reckon with the two other facts which argue against Islam's Nabatean origins. This is a guy that wrote this here. The presence of 200 Ethiopic and Amharic, okay, basically Ethiopian words in the Quran. Okay, the Quranic references to pagans, idol worship, and animal sacrifice. You see, Coptic would have been a language very closely associated with Nabatea, but there's only 10 Coptic words in the Quran, but there's over 200 Ethiopic words in the Quran. So this talks to us about a southern origin, okay, a strong southern influence. Quranic references to pagans, idol worship, and animal sacrifice, okay. Significant linguistic borrowing suggests cross-cultural interaction. When goods and ideas are exchanged, words are often are as well. And the Yemen was on the sea routes. So was Ethiopia. Cultural dominance may play into linguistic borrowing, and Ethiopia ruled the Hijaz for a time during the 6th century. If the Quran's early surahs were addressed to the inhabitants of Petra, one might expect more Coptic than Ethiopian words. But since Nabatea was much closer culturally to Egypt than to Ethiopia, okay, yet Amharic and Ethiopic words in the Quran stand in a 20-to-1 ratio to Coptic words. So that's just this argument. So it seems that there's a lot of appeal to people in the south rather than people in the north. And most people have ignored this northern influence, this African influence. So yeah, so that ends the presentation. So guys, that's it. And yeah, so I mean, next I would have to eventually, once I finish the research, I need to talk about Ethiopia, but that finishes the Yemeni section. Thank you, Adam.
Awesome, brother. God bless you. You have done an awesome job. I have two questions in the live stream, and I gave the Muslimin to come up live and answer, but they are so scared to come up live. As always, there are certain keyboard jihadis, so I would like to answer them if you don't mind. They are little
Sure.
off topic, but I would like to answer them. So, can you tell me what you believe the hereafter life will be according to Christianity? Now, Mr. Muslim, the problem is the hereafter life according to Islam is a life of pornography. Whether you look at the Jannah, i.e., the heaven, or you look at the hell, i.e., Jahannam, they are both pornographic. In the heaven, you will have maidens, beautifully made with excellent round breasts that will be there for your sexual pleasure always. And they will be on heat like a camel is on heat. Urban atraba. They'll be on heat like a camel on heat, female camel on heat, always waiting for you to provide ding dong. If you look at the hell of Allah, the hell of Allah is also pornographic, because in the hell of Allah, Allah is going to put chain in your buttocks hole, the hole between your buttocks, and take that chain out of your nostrils or your mouth, and then hang you and then roast you in the fire. Don't you see how much pornographic is in the hell and the heaven? If this is the hell and the heaven of your Allah, forgive me, my friend. I cannot believe this stupidity. You wanna believe this? Please be my guest. Believe and go to the hell, which will be actual hell, where there will be no pornography, but you will be there without the presence of God, and you will finally finish the existence of yours. Second question, Mr. S. Hussain. Mr. Sayyid Hussain, probably the S is for the Sayyid. Why they killed Jesus? Okay, that's why they killed Jesus. Why Jews killed Jesus? Okay, now this is another silly question, because that is why we ask you people, why the hell Quran says that they did not kill him nor did they crucify him, and your answer is what? Jews used to kill prophets. Okay, show me which prophet did Jews kill, and you have no answer in the Quran. By the way, Quran says Jews used to kill prophets in plural. In the Arabic, you can distinguish between a prophet, two prophet, and more than two prophet, i.e. three or more. Can you give me the name of at least three prophets, which is bare minimum plural in the Arabic, which are killed by the Jews according to Quran? You have no answer. Let me tell you what the answer is. Because Jesus proclaimed to be equal to the Father, equal to God. For that, you have to read the Bible. Once you read the Bible, you will realize that Jews did not accept the narrative that Jesus was equal to the Father. Hence, they tried to crucify him. This is when you Muslims ask, where does the Bible says Jesus is God? It is right there on the same passage when they say blasphemy, blasphemy. And then they took him to the Roman prefect that this guy is a blasphemer, kill him or crucify him. Whereas Allah already agrees that they tried to kill him or crucify him. So, Mr. Hussain, that's why I say come up live, ask, get the answer so that you would have a chance to refute. You don't want me to give you a chance to refute? It's up to you. It's up to you. So, this is the point number two. Now, let's see if there is another question. Amna Sardar is here. Amna Sardar, just wanted to say hi, dear friends. Thank you so very much, Amna Sardar. She's another ex-Muslima. God bless you as well, sister. And let's see if there is another question. Brother Rob Christian is in the chat as well. Welcome, Brother Rob Christian. God bless you. And okay, Yatur Siddiqui gave a super chat of $5, said, "Beloved brother Lloyd, please grab a glass of water quickly for you. You are simply rocking." All right, brother. This guy really loves you and he is shooting out to you that you are speaking so much. You need to get something. Uh, Rob Christian says, "Shh, Adam Seeger, you don't know Arabic." Excellent, Rob Christian. Exactly. Whenever we speak with a Muslim, the first thing is you don't know Quran. Then the second thing is you don't know Arabic. When we talk about the Arabic, they say, no, 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 you don't know the true Arabic. Then when we give them the true Arabic, you don't know the classical Arabic. When we give them the translation of the classical Arabic, no, no, it is not in the
Wow.
context of the Quran. So left, right, and center, they will always come up with an excuse to say, and they will never be able to give you a proper answer. Brother Lloyd, would you like to add anything to any of these questions, or rather answers?
Um, no, that's fantastic. I mean, look, I've always said, and that it's legal in Islam to lie. It's not only, remember, there's no right and wrong in Islam. Technically, there's only legal and illegal. It is legal in Islam to lie, and in fact, it is mandatory. It is obligatory to lie. And if you lie to defend Islam, it is not considered a lie. It is not considered a sin. You can lie all you want because you're lying for the good. So unfortunately, the and also Islam utilizes so under the ilm al badi they have this is the use of rhetoric. Okay, they also have the adab al jadal, which is the use of propaganda. Don't forget, dawa means propaganda and pretense. Okay, this by default in Islam means dishonest rhetoric. It is used. It's rhetoric used to lie and to deceive. All right, it is words that are used to lie, and this is considered good. This is considered righteous, and they in English we would call this heuristic dialectic, which would be very. That's what the sophists in Greece did. The Greek sophists, they had roughly, we would call it today, 38 techniques which are specifically used to frustrate the truth and to lie. So they are trained to do so, and those who aren't specifically trained as part of the culture, they've learned it. So they are skilled at dodging, deceiving, and lying using sophistry.
Absolutely, brother. God bless you for that. Amna Siddharth ji said, Islam is a copycat. Sister, you need to add one more word in it. Derogatorized copycat. So Islam derogatorized even the pagans. So, so no matter which part you pick up, Islam just did not copy paste it. It copied and then derogatorized it. No matter which thing Islam picked up, it just a derogatorized dogma of somebody to connect all. This is the live stream number 5. So you gotta watch all the live streams together to finish up. One more question that our silly brother Muslim actually asked, as he thinks he does not know or he thinks we do not know. My friend, you have to read Second Thessalonians chapter number 1, verse number 8 and 9, and you will see hell is the absence of God. And this is in a lot of different locations as well, but I'm just giving you one. You will see different things in different locations, but I do not have to tell you that, because hell is absence of God. But at the same time, your Allah is in hell as well, as you know. When 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 at the day of judgment, hell is going to ask more and more and more people, and Allah will put people in the hell again and again. Yet hell is asking more. Now Allah is out of people. So what is Allah going to do? Allah is going to put his foot inside the hell. So Allah is already in hell. So he'll be burning in hell. So unfortunately, brother Muslim, you have no idea what you are talking about. You do not know what it is. S. Hussain says, Jews acknowledge Christianity, Jesus as prophet. If not, then why? Come on. Isn't that true? That all of the early Christians were Jews? When the first apostles were Jews, all of the first Muslims were Jews. In Acts of Apostle, chapter number 2, when the Holy Spirit descended upon the apostles and they spoke and gave the sermon, 5,000 of those people come join Christianity or Jesus. The word Christianity was not even there at that time. The word Christianity was given in Acts of Apostle, chapter number 11. So they were following Jesus, the teaching of Jesus. Those were Jews. You are the most ignorant person in the history of ignorant, because you are a Muslim. Unfortunately, you have no knowledge. You stick to Quran, you stick to Hadith. By the way, can you tell me how many Christians and Jews were there when Muhammad actually attacked Makkah and captured Makkah? Can you give the number? because a lot of Muslims says that there were over 100,000 people who supposedly embraced Islam when Muhammad captured Makkah. You do not have an answer. Okay, how about Jews? There were 7 tribes of Jews in Medina, and Muhammad killed all of them, almost all of them. And when Muhammad attacked Quraiza, the tribe of Quraiza, where all the people went in, all the Jews went in and stayed at the Quraiza area, what did Muhammad do? He killed all of them. They were saying, take my land, take our money, take everything. But what did Muhammad do? Muhammad took their pants down, and Muhammad looked at the kids who has pubic hairs. And anyone who had pubic hairs, Muhammad killed them. This is in your hadiths. This is in your seerahs. Why did Muhammad kill all of them? According to the history, 700 to 1400 people were killed when they were captured in the same day. Why? Because they were simply Jews. The first Holocaust of Jews was done by Muhammad, in front of Muhammad, by the commands of Muhammad. So, Mr. S. Hussain, unfortunately, you do not know Jack, and you can't even come up live to have a talk. That's the reality of your brain at this moment. So now, uh, and now Hussain said, check this out. Did I use a foul mouth? Muhammad is the
No.
one who used the foul mouth, my friend. Muhammad said, because Muhammad does not know his tribal lineage, he knew his father was not his father. He knew he was born 2 to 4 years after the death of his father. So when Muhammad said, anybody who will exalt himself on his tribal lineage, tell him, go and bite the private part of his father and do not take it as a metaphor. This is your Muhammad, Mr. S. Hussain. My language is far, far, far better than Muhammad. By the way, pubic hair, taking the pants down, is also in your hadiths. I did not do that. Muhammad did that. So learn what you are saying before you say anything. Otherwise, you are nothing but a fool and an ignorant person. Thank you so very much. Brother Lloyd.
No, no, I think you roasted this guy you've nuked him from orbit. Um,
What? Your English analogy was pretty good, man.
um, yeah. So, yeah. So look, so guys, I mean, I'd rather just restrict myself to the topic at hand largely. So, I mean, I was trying to provide numerous different resources through the ages that show that Islam is heavily derived from Babylonian paganism, especially moon god worship, to really dive extremely deep into that thesis. And it seems like the Muslims destroyed a lot of the records for about 150 years. There's suddenly just no evidence. All the documents, all the inscriptions, everything just gone. And then once the hadiths start coming out, then suddenly written records appear again. And it's interesting that all of the cultures around Arabia at the time, all of them had writing. The Yemenis had writing, they had scripts, they wrote. They were very, very literate people. There were scripts everywhere. And then suddenly Muhammad pops up and for 150 years, nothing, no evidence. Looks like they destroyed all the evidence. And yeah, just very convenient. And this is something that they've used to try to hide the evidence. But I think the evidence is starting to come to light. They couldn't destroy everything. We're starting to find things, and it's possible he became a pagan. From being a pagan, he became a Gnostic. It's very, very likely because there's heavy use of Gnosticism in the Islamic literature. Heavy, heavy use of Gnosticism. The entire Christology of the Quran and of the Islamic literature is Gnostic and heretical. So there was a mixing. At one point, I'll do a talk on. I'm busy working on the notes on Christianity and Gnosticism fighting it out in Arabia from very, very early on, from the first and second centuries already. They were fighting it out. And this caused a lot of confusion. A lot of people were led astray by Gnosticism and heretics. And yeah, and Muhammad obviously fell into if he was a Sabi, if he became if from a Sabaean he became a Sabian, then he went from being a pagan moon worshipper to a Gnostic heretic.
Absolutely, brother. Brother, there's one question from our brother Gospel Truth. He said, is there any evidence of Jibril? And question number two, as an enemy of Jews and a keeper of secrets. Did you actually did some research on that, brother?
No, no. I mean, I'd have to. It's kind of off topic. I'm not sure. Um, As the name of
No.
the Jews, no, because Gabriel would be one of the. I mean, a lot of the stories, okay, a lot of the stories in the Quran come from originally from the Book of Enoch. You'll find that a lot of the Gnostics stories, the Jewish Gnostic stories, when I say Jewish, I don't mean it. It's like saying Christian Gnostics. They're not Christians. They're Gnostics. They are pseudo Christian Gnostics. They're pseudo, right? They're pretending. They're just a facade. And, they derive a lot of their stories from the Jewish mysticism, which are fantasy, the myth, right? They derive a lot of the stories from Enoch, from Sethian and Enochian scripts, from the books, and then the problem is that if you look at the Jewish story, it's like full of details, and then it maybe goes to another culture, and then they lose some details, and they go to another culture, and it's all word of mouth, and eventually you get to the Muslim story, and it lost all the details, right? It's just got the barest details left, so it's like loses detail as it goes. So no, Gabriel should not be an enemy. I'd have to check. I'd have to see. And then of course, what was the other question? Is he an enemy?
Enemy of Jews.
And a keeper of secrets. Yes, technically there would be the secrets, and of course the whole point was that the Jewish rabbis, the Jewish scholars, wanted to determine secrets like the dimensions of God, right? And there's actually references in the Hadith where they speak of this giant angel and dimensions of Allah and all of that, and how Allah looks. Even within the Quran, they talk about how Allah looks like his shin and the size of this, and he's got this and that. This is derived directly from within the Jewish scriptures, within Enoch, within Seth, within other scriptures, other writings of the Jewish rabbis. They're trying to find how God looks. So yeah, they actually have a study there. I can't remember the name, but I have the notes. I do have a study on it. So yeah, this is all derived from very early, and everyone stole from these Jewish writings, and then they corrupted them, and the Gnostics were just making stuff up, just making it up. So I mean, the way the Quran makes things up, it's very Gnostic. You just make up lies as you go, and that's normal.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you so very much. And brother Rob Christian said that in the book of Daniel, Gabriel, no, it's not Jibrail, it's Gabriel, came to Daniel to explain the vision about the two horns. So no lies, of course, Adam Seeker. Absolutely, brother. And Daniel chapter number 8 and chapter number 9, we see Gabriel over there as well. It's not Jibrail, by the way. Murtaz Murti said, so the writing in, brother, can you read this word? Meskadili? Can you please read that? The super
What was
chat?
that?
Can you read this super chat, brother?
I'm having a hard time seeing it because you're. Oh, hold on. So the writings in Mesquidil Aqsa is for.
Acha,
Is it in the mosque in
is
Aqsa? Is
he
for
should.
Jesus, not for Muhammad.
So he's saying Masjid al-Aqsa is for Jesus
Yeah,
and not for
masjid.
Muhammad.
Yeah, masjid. Yeah, masjid al-Aqsa. Yeah, masjid al-Aqsa could be Turkish. Is for Jesus, not for Muhammad. Yeah, it would seem so because the early inscriptions to Muhammad are for Jesus, and then Rahman is God, the God of the Jews, the God of the Bible.
And by the way, you need to understand that the first Masjid al-Aqsa, which was supposedly created, which we do not have the evidence, supposedly created in 636 or 37, is no more there. The first Dome of the Rock, which is on the opposite side of the Masjid al-Aqsa, which nowadays is called as Masjid al-Aqsa as a whole, was first created in 709, and you do not have the first Masjid al-Aqsa because it was destroyed. The Dome of the Rock was destroyed in a earthquake. And then you have the second Dome of the Rock. So currently the Dome of the Rock that you have is not the original Dome of the Rock. So now in the Dome of the Rock, it's all Islamic scriptures because they are now 250 years after the death of Muhammad. So current Dome of the Rock is not the original Dome of the Rock as you see in the history. So with that being said, you cannot look at the current inscriptions and say these are the same inscriptions which were there in the early Dome of the Rock. So,
Yeah, in fact, we're even on the sixth Kaaba.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. I thought it is
Yeah,
the third Kaaba. You have the sixth Kaaba?
I think it's the sixth. Well, they've replaced the door 6 times already.
Ah, door six time. But
Yeah,
the first Kaaba was destroyed at the time of Hassan, Imam Hassan, first time. Then the second time it was destroyed by Kurtumani. Third time it was destroyed by a flood. And I don't know about the fourth, fifth, and sixth. So yeah, we'll check that out. But I know three of the incidents of the full destruction of Kaaba and the Kaaba was rebuilt.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. But I know the door was replaced 6 times, so that's on their sixth door. So yeah, that's. I mean, so they've made changes to it. I mean, it used to have 6 pillars inside. We know that now it's got 3.
Brother,
They used to have stairs onto the roof, and now they don't have that anymore.
I want to address this. When did we abuse somebody?
We told the truth and it hurt them.
Ah, right. By the way, let me just tell you, this guy probably is a Pakistani or Indian because there are at least 5 different channels who are created just to abuse me every day, day and night. They make videos about me and they give me all the abuse of the world, just like their Prophet Muhammad
But
did.
they're
The-
supposed to abuse you. This is part of the doctrine of the Sharia doctrine of commanding the right and forbidding the wrong. They have to use abuse. They're required to be abusive. They must
and
use abusive language.
abusive in a level where they abuse by using the private part of the mother and the
Yes, if they're
father
allowed to,
and the
this is
sister
legal. This is
and
this is
everyone.
necessary. This is legal. This is necessary. This is commanded by Allah.
All right, so yes, he does knows that. So now look, he is Bangladeshi. He looks at my Urdu channel. He's saying ask or Ram. So he gave me the approval. So yes, so he knows that there are many channels in Pakistan and in India created just for my name, and they they just come in live and they take a video of mine and they will start abusing left, right, and center with all the abuses of the world. Oh man, they're doing exactly what the prophet is doing. Absolutely, you're so right, brother. Thank you so very much.
Hmm.
And he lives in USA. Imagine, brother, this is his hypocrisy. He lives in USA. He lives in USA. Your Muhammad spreaded hate to begin with. FYI, I am ready to debate you any time of the day. Let's see if you have the guts. Send me a message in the description after the video. Let's see if you have the guts to come up live and have a debate, and I will show you who spreaded hate. Well, Lloyd, I think that's the end of it. I said I will give another chance for the people to ask, but seems like nobody is going to ask
Yeah.
over here
Yeah.
about our content. You did an awesome job, brother. Thank you so very much. You did 5 sessions over here. Anybody who has the capacity to learn, they can go
You
watch from
know,
part one.
this S Hussein doesn't have time for the S you are doing, but he's got time to sit here, watch, and then comment.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, these guys are so smart in the comments. They have such big in the comments,
Mhm.
right? Such a big mouth in the comments. And you tell them come up, and then they run away like cowards, like chickens, right? I mean, seriously, if you know so much, you know what? Thaddeus and I have offered how many Muslims come on the channel uninterrupted. We will not interrupt you. Come on, make a presentation. They refuse. They run away because if you actually present you take pot shots from the comments because if you have to make a complete presentation, you'd look like a fool. Besides that, you obviously don't want to reveal your stupid script because we all know you're working with a script, right? If you guys were so smart, you'd be happy to come on and present like I presented. You'd come on and present your refutation, show us the facts, come on and present. We won't talk. I won't talk. You just come on, you make your presentation. Let the world see how I am wrong because you are going to present the facts. Do it. What stops you? Because you guys don't have the courage.
Oh man. All right, guys. As we know already, they have no knowledge. Unfortunately, they are Momins, Muslims. They go by the Quran, which literally have no knowledge whatsoever. So, with that being said, brother, any last comment before we close this stream and this
Oh,
whole
he's the
session,
one
which is a part
swearing and
one?
he's calling you foul mouth. How is that? He's the one swearing and you're the foul mouth. I don't get it. Like, dude, like,
Brother, that's how
hello.
it works. Remember, when Muhammad was actually the one who was killing people, he says others like this is how they do. That's the standard narrative.
Yeah,
That's the standard narrative. And yes, Muhammad is the one who actually started all the wars, all the battles. He is the one who killed the Jews. He is the one who killed the Mushrikeen. He is the one who killed the Kuffar. He is the one who started attacking their caravans. He is the one who went all the way 1200 kilometers away and did Suraya battles on multiple areas. He is the one who all did all that. Yet they are the ones who were supposedly defending, brother. They were defending.
I know.
They were defending, brother. Oh my goodness, they were so masoom.
Poor,
I'm crying.
poor victims. I know.
Oh man, they were victims of everyone else.
So Hussein is the one swearing, but he doesn't want to talk to a foul-mouthed guy. Seriously, he's the one making it. What a hypocrite! What a hypocrite! Good
Yeah,
grief!
the whole problem is, brother, these guys, when they abuse, that's not abuse. When Muhammad said, go bite the private part of your father,
Of
it's
course,
not
it's
abuse.
righteousness for them.
Like this is his abuse, left, right, and center. And yet we are the ones who are abusing, whereas we are the ones who are actually showing them the facts. uh, and his parents, yes, your parents could not brought you up like my parents brought me up. Your parents brought you up the way you are acting, and you are the ones who is a hypocrite. All right, guys, forget the
Yeah,
leave the
man.
comments over there so they would know, everyone would know what we were answering. So my brother, any last words, and we will end this stream, brother. I don't think
No, thanks.
I cannot have a debate when a guy is just tap dancing in the chat.
Yeah, yeah, no, just frighten the little children. I mean, seriously, make a presentation. Come on the channel, whatever. Present. No one will interrupt you. Just present, and then maybe take some questions later. But if you believe you have facts, if you believe you have everything, come on and present. Why not? Show that I'm wrong. Bring up your facts. Bring your references. Bring all your books. So, yeah, do it.
All right, guys, thank you so very much. Have a blessed day, evening, or night, wherever you are. And you know, you need to realize that Islam is false. If these 5 parts live stream cannot show you that Islam is false, then you have your mind closed. It's like a horse. If you guys have not seen a horse in a chariot, or in Pakistan we still have horses and donkeys, donkey carts and horse carts. When we have horse carts or donkey carts, what they do with the horse on the eyes is they put a leather piece, 2 inches by 3 inches, on the eyes, on the left and the right, so that the horse or the donkey could just see straight, because the horse's eyes is on the right side and on the left side, so he can get scared of the right or the left car or other cars. So they want him to just see straight, not right and left, so that the person who is driving, he can just keep driving. That's what you guys are, unfortunately. Your eyes have leather pieces, and the mullahs and the scholars are driving you in a path where they want to drive you. They want to take you left, you go left. They want to take you right, you go right. What we are showing is, we are showing you to see the world in a proper way. Open your eyes, open your hearts, open your mind, and do not be deceived by these scholars. That's all I would like to say at the end. And before I go, as everyone says and knows, have a blessed day, evening, or night, wherever you are. Yeshua Akbarul Aziz.